taste of home. After a week of quiet leisure and nightly excursions, Russell had fished along every bend of the glowing river. The soothing rhythm of the water and the solitude of the moonlit banks offered a rare peace. Twice, he glimpsed the mysterious shimmer of the magic light beneath the surface, perhaps river-born pearls or ancient treasures, but each time he awoke too late. Morning yielded nothing, not even a nibble. A small regret, but one he accepted. Still, the endeavor wasn't fruitless. His persistence had earned him several blind-eye dragons, and with them, a hearty soup courtesy of Mrs. Moore. "It's not bad," Russell muttered after sipping the broth. "But too many spices again. I must speak with Mrs. Moore." Custom dictated that nobles kept out of kitchens and away from servant quarters. The rigid hierarchy of the Shadow Flame Duchy left little room for informal mingling. Yet Russell wasn't one to be shackled by pomp or pretense, especially not when his culinary cravings were at stake. "Butler Morris," he said, flipping casually through the tale of the smoked dragon's death, "please ask Mrs. Moore to come see me." "Yes, my lord." Minutes later, Mrs. Moore arrived, hands nervously wringing her apron. Her usual booming kitchen voice was reduced to a whisper. "Master, no need to be nervous, Mrs. Moore," Russell said kindly. "Oh, okay." "The blind-eye dragon soup was quite delicious," he began with a smile, "though I believe it could be even better with a few small changes." The moment she heard that, Mrs. Moore turned pale as ash. I can improve it, I swear, master. Just give me another chance. I'll make it right, I promise." Russell sighed. "You misunderstand me. It was good. I'm simply suggesting we dial back the seasoning a bit." "Oh, yes, of course, master. I'll do better next time." "Mrs. Moore," he said patiently, "I want you to understand. There's too much clashing in the flavor. Cinnamon, honey, onion, black pepper. It overwhelms the taste of the fish itself." Mrs. Moore nodded rapidly, though her wide eyes made it clear she wasn't following. "My master, I'll try harder. I'll make it taste better." Seeing her panic return, Russell decided to switch tactics. "From today onward, you'll prepare a fish soup every day. Apart from salt, ginger, and garlic, you may use only one additional spice." "Just one." "Understood." Her expression crumbled. Is the master displeased with me?" Russell pinched the bridge of his nose. "Morris," he called, voice tight with weariness. "Yes, master." "You heard my instructions?" "Perfectly, my lord. One spice, very daily." Mrs. Moore simply misunderstood. "Then make sure she understands. You may go." As Morris led the distraught cook away, Russell sighed again, tempted to find a replacement. But skilled cooks were rare, and Mrs. Moore, for all her nervous energy, was capable, if she could just follow instructions. Back in the servant wing, Mrs. Moore wrung her hands and buried her face. "I ruined it, Mr. Morris. I embarrassed myself in front of the master. He'll never enjoy my cooking again." "You're overthinking it," Morris said calmly. "The master only asked for variety. He wasn't criticizing you." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. The master knows your talent. Everyone here eats your food, don't we?" Mrs. Moore sniffled, slowly calming. "You're right. So, just one spice a day. That's it. And no more worrying. Just follow the master's instructions." "But that kind of soup might not taste good." "The master isn't looking for perfect taste. He wants simplicity." "I understand." She straightened, wiping her cheeks. "I'll make it work, Mr. Morris. Please let the master know I'll give it my all." With that, she marched off, already bellowing orders. Barbara, you lazy girl, where are you hiding?" "I'm here, Mrs. Moore," came the distant reply. "Gallivanting again, were you?" "We saw Sir Kevin." "Mrs. Moore, he's so gentle. He lets touch him. Even Sir Eric didn't stop us." Morris, still nearby, turned sharply. "Barbara, silence. Do not speak of that." The girl paled. Sorry, Mr. Morris. I won't say another word." That evening, Russell sat down to a simple fish soup made with black pepper, salt, ginger, and garlic. It wasn't blind-eye dragon, but the flavor was clean, the essence of the fish preserved. He smiled. "Morris, please tell Mrs. Moore. Today's fish soup was excellent. I'd like her to continue. She'll be overjoyed to hear it. My lord, ecstatic, Morris replied with a knowing grin. Matters of wine, wolves, and rivers. It seems the annex no longer suits your tastes, Mr. Charles, Russell said with a touch of dry civility, his mind elsewhere. Still, I hope you find a cook who better suits your palate. He wasn't offended, just distracted. He had been craving the tastes of home more than usual. Charles, for his part, was preparing to move out of the manor's annex soon, his lodgings in the small market already refurbished. My dear lord, Charles sighed dramatically, I wish that day would come later. I'm far too fond of your wine cellar. I'll send you off with a bottle of Black Pearl, Russell replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips. You spoil me, Charles said, though he knew he had overstayed long enough. The annex, after all, was Russell's private residence. Eric, too, would soon be settling in the small market, but his loyal fantasy beast, the gold and silver wolfhound, would remain at the manor to guard the estate at night. The beast, named Kevin, was dubbed such for its mismatched eyes, one gold, one silver, earning it the more ceremonial title from Russell, the gold and silver wolfhound. That day, as was custom once a week, Russell dined at Fluorescent Castle. Before the meal, he found himself seated in the study with his father, Baron Roman, sipping wine when the topic of Eric came up. Eric has been promoted to a phantom beast knight, the Baron asked in surprise. Did you discover a beast in your lands? Or did he tame one from the snowfield? Such beasts were rare, far rarer than knights. Russell explained, the Wildcat sisters sent over a half-ghost beast. I thought it might earn me a favor, but to my surprise, the wolfhound, Kevin responded and formed the contract on its own. The Baron set down his glass, momentarily stunned. All praise to the great dragon. Surely, it's the Shadow Flame Dragon's blessing that gave the wolfhound new life. In the duchy, all unexplained fortune was attributed to the great dragon's divine will. Russell offered a polite nod. Yes, praise be to the great dragon. Though in truth, he gave credit to the little dream dragon in his care. The Baron narrowed his gaze. So what's your next move? I assume the Echo Water River Cavern. Yes, Russell confirmed without hesitation. I plan to bait Lisbon, secure the cavern, and expand Weow Snake Manor's reach to encompass the area. It'll allow us to monitor snowfield activity closely. A bold strategy, Baron Roman admitted, then cautioned, but be careful with the cavern. It's a foul place. Don't let it taint your territory. Better to hold your ground than rule a swamp of rot. I'll manage it with care, father. And don't rest too easy now that Eric's been knighted. Your greatest strength will always be your own. Russell bowed his head. I understand. Come, time for supper. As they left the study, setting down their wine glasses, Lady Merrill greeted them with a reminder. In a few days, June 4th, your grandmother's birthday banquet will be held here. Make sure to come a day early. I've no idea if your sister's family will attend. June 13th is Roland's birthday too. We'll know soon enough, Baron Roman interjected. The trade caravan should bring letters from her and Cooper. Roland, Russell's elder sister, had married into the Thistlegrass family, binding the barony of Blackgarden to their own lineage. Nobility often intermarried within the duchy. 2 earls, 5 barons. First sons secured alliances. Second sons, like Russell, had more leeway. I'll return on the 3rd, Russell said. Have you thought of a gift for your grandmother? Merrill asked, lifting an eyebrow. You're a landed lord now. A bouquet of wildflowers won't cut it. I haven't decided yet. Well, she waved a hand. If you can't think of something suitable, pick from the castle treasury. A gemstone necklace, a magic bracelet, something fitting. Baron Roman glanced at his wife, but remained silent. If I can, I'll prepare something special, Russell replied. But if I run short on time, I may need to borrow one of Mother's necklaces. I'll have Megjin fetch one now, Merrill said matter-of-factly. There's no need to be so hasty, Baron Roman grumbled. He's clearing out our Vault 1 visit at a time. Thank you, Mother, Russell said without shame. The Baron sighed. You're doing well with your fief, but it's time to be self-reliant. Self-sufficiency is a noble virtue. Your uncle mastered it. Learn from him when you can. I will. Just then Lola bounded in. Brother, When will you take me to Wuyao Snake Manor? She no longer hid her smile. Her missing tooth had started to grow back, and she seemed more confident. Next time, for sure, Russell promised with a grin. Later that afternoon, Russell found himself riding through glowing Valley Town, his night attendant James trailing behind. Though the town was technically named, locals refer to it simply as the town, the heart of glowing Valley territory. It was modest but well-built, a long main street following the river, and 3 short cross streets that met it. The town was walled, its population under 10,000, while the entire territory housed just over 60,000 souls. Despite his title, Russell moved unnoticed among the commoners. He wore no finery, no sigils, just a dark cloak and travel gear. The anonymity suited him, but the stench did not. Disgusting, he muttered, wrinkling his nose. Human waste, animal dung, and sour rot lingered in the air. Indoor plumbing was rare. Chamber pots were still flung from windows or poured down back alleys, though strict law prevented anyone from polluting the glowing river. Violators were fined or whipped. Even so, some chose convenience over caution. As Russell crossed the main bridge, he spotted a man urinating by the riverside. Worse still, someone was squatting in the distant bushes. Damn it! He turned sharply. James, arrest that man defecating by the river. Deliver him to the sheriff at once. Yes, my lord. With his order dispatched, Russell turned his horse and resumed his ride, his mood soured. No matter how grand the castle, a territory's true face was seen in its street.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Aside from the scenery, there's hardly anything here. And now, Russell had even grown tired of the Wuyao Snake Manor's views. A river, 2 mountains, vast farmland, and wasteland, that was it. Rudy isn't too bad. The 4 types of magic potions at Magic Medicine Ton are now healthily cultivated, and the arrangement of serfs is well ordered. Charles rode horseback behind Russell, reporting to him the manor situation. Red-nosed Rudy was a serf technician who had long cultivated magic potions for the Baron. After being granted to Russell by the Baron, he was currently serving as the head of Magic Medicine Ton. That's good news. The scale of the glowing mushrooms and the birch forest needs to be expanded steadily. Remind Rudy not to expand blindly. Rest assured, sir, I will make sure to remind Rudy. What about the manor court? They were all trivial disputes. I personally presided over the manor court and resolved the serfs' issues. There are no conflicts now. Charles took pride in claiming credit. Old Hans doesn't understand the art of coordination at all. You can't be too indulgent with serfs. The Wuyao Snake Manor was Russell's domain. In the strictest sense, Russell was the law, with all disputes within his domain requiring his judgment. Therefore, Lord would set up a manor court on their domain, either presiding over it themselves or assigning trusted subordinates to do so. It's best to have the stewards of each ton suppress disputes first and hold the manor court once a week. I will personally go there and judge. Russell would not fully delegate the power of the manor court to subordinates, not because he coveted power. It was because he did not fully trust Charles's judgments. Although Charles's knowledge surpassed everyone in the domain, he treated serfs with too little regard, which was not a good thing. Of course, as you wish, Charles said with a smile. Perhaps it was Eric's promotion to Phantom Beast Knight that had brought him a great shock. Now he was putting much more effort into his duties than before. Unlike the past, where it seemed he came to Russell's side just to freeload off meals and drinks, he now felt a greater sense of belonging to the Wuyao Snake Manor. Maybe he did not want to be left far behind by Eric, or perhaps he was convinced that Russell truly could achieve something great. By the way, sir, did you know that there is already a trade caravan that has arrived in town? Charles suddenly remembered something. The serfs who went to the mill to grind flour said that the town is now packed with people. Why don't we take a stroll ourselves? The caravan has arrived? Russell became interested. With the warm season's arrival and Snow Demon's power waning, the trade routes between regions reopened and caravans gradually began to thrive. Turning his horse around, Russell immediately decided, let's go have a look at the town, and, if possible, Invite some merchants to come to Weow Snake Manor's small market to sell their goods, so the serfs don't have to trek all the way to town. You are truly compassionate, sir. Accompanied by his knight attendants and personal servant, Russell hurried to Yuanguang town. It was indeed 10 times livelier now than the scene when he had strolled through a couple of days ago. A main street with 3 cross streets, all packed with people. At least half of the populace from the domain had come to the town. Here it comes, here it comes. Look at the fire ant pills, a specialty from Fire Ant Swamp. Makes you strong after eating, and your wife will smile with joy. Smoked rat meat for sale. Authentic smoked rat meat from Furious Wind City. Qi and blood ointment, 3 silver coins for a dose of it. It's not magic potion, but still better than magic potion. For those who want you and your child to nourish the seed of battle Qi, you can't miss out on Qi and blood ointment. The Fantasy Beast performance is about to begin. Those who haven't bought tickets quickly head to the big tent beside the bridge on the 3rd cross street, and the Dreamy Mink will bring you a magical experience. Choose from over a dozen kinds of gems. Moray Jewel Stand welcomes your patronage. Large wolfhounds, small wolfhounds, large hunting dogs, small hunting dogs, watchdogs, and mixed breed dogs, we have them all. Boss, would you like to buy one? Umbrella repairs, shoe repairs, furniture repairs. The newly arrived caravan spread out along several streets, their cries rising and falling as they arranged an array of goods that greatly attracted the enthusiasm of the people. Russell had to leave his horse outside the town, since riding was not an option, leaving the knight attendant James to watch over it. He then mixed in with the crowd, accompanied by Charles and others. Sir, you really don't need to humble yourself so much and squeeze in with these stinky serfs. It would have been entirely possible for Tom and the others to clear the way for us, Charles said loudly, just to be heard over the surrounding noise. Even my father would not choose to disturb the subject's enjoyment on a day like this, Russell said, noncommittally. He certainly could have revealed his status as the Baron's 2nd son and then have the people make way for him. But there was no need. He didn't enjoy the pomp and circumstance of a cleared path. On the contrary, the bustling scene gave him a familiar sense of nostalgia. Of course, it would be better if the surrounding stench were a little less. A short while later, Russell and his party arrived at a jewel stand. Owner, are all these gemstones produced by dragons? Russell asked as he looked at a mixed collection of gemstones on the stall. Of course, sir, the stall owner quickly recognized Russell's distinguished status. Please take a look at these gemstones. This is an emerald, which can draw in battle Qi, and is the perfect material for inlaying onto weapons. This is a Danquan stone, which can speed up the healing of wounds. There are more than a dozen different colored gemstones in total. Russell, however, had his eyes on a colorless, transparent gemstone. Is this a white crystal? Sir, your insight is as sharp as a torch. This indeed is a white crystal, a completely transparent crystal, a specialty of the white crystal dragon from Count Brokenstone's estate. When we passed through the gravel domain, we had to pay a high price to get this batch of white crystals. Count Brokenstone was one of the 2 earls of the Shadow Flame Duchy, holding high authority and always the arm and confidant of the Duke. What is the effect of the white crystal? Purifying the heart and mind, sir. If you wear a white crystal, you'll be able to concentrate better when practicing or meditating on your battle Qi. How much for these 2? Russell picked out 2 slightly larger white crystals. As a token of my goodwill, 13 gold coins. The larger one for 7 gold coins. The smaller one for 6 gold coins. The stall owner's eyes gleamed. Finally, a big client had arrived. Of course, if you have ice pellet pearls, you could also use those to pay. That's too expensive. Russell shook his head. Ah, this is a very fair price already, sir. You, a noble gentleman, know that dragon specialties have always been so costly. After all, it is only those of your standing who are worthy of using them. Exactly because I'm a noble, I know it's overpriced. Russell was not a thin-skinned young man who would feel too shy to haggle after a bit of flattery. 7 gold coins for 2 white crystals. Take it or leave it. Oh my goodness. The stall owner clasped his head. Sir, just kill me now. Watching the stall owner's exaggerated performance, Russell said nothing more, turned around, and walked away. "Mr. Charles, let's go and look around elsewhere." "Oh, wait. Sir, please wait a moment. 10 gold coins, just 10 gold coins, and they're yours," the stall owner quickly shouted. The serfs and freemen crowded in the town were not his target customers. Only someone like Russell would afford and be willing to buy the gemstones. Letting go of any of them was a huge loss. Russell paused, revealing a satisfied smile, but quickly composed himself, turned back, and firmly said, "No more than 8 gold coins. That's my final offer." 9 gold coins, what about 9? The stall owner clasped his hands together, pleading as if begging for mercy. "This is high-quality white crystal, regular in shape and transparent throughout. They must have been nurtured in the vein for at least 10 years to produce such a quality of white crystal." Russell insisted, 8 gold coins. In the end, with the stall owner displaying an almost mourning expression, a sale was made for 8 gold coins. But as the stall owner quickly wrapped up the white crystals and handed them over as if afraid Russell would change his mind, Russell knew he was still too young. The stall owner had tearfully earned at least 2 gold coins. As for jewelers, there's a lamp shop on 2nd Cross Street with craftsmen who excel at crafting gem lamps. Of course, Fluorescent Castle likely has skilled jewelers in service to craft gems for Lord Baron. "Let's head to the lamp shop then." Russell quickly led his group to the lamp shop, where he found a craftsman working on the gem lamps and expressed his need. "I need you to help me grind these 2 clear crystals into lenses, convex lenses, where it's slightly thicker in the middle and thinner at the edges." In fact, what he needed the craftsman to craft were reading glasses. Lady Ingrid was already advanced in years, and the cheese seed she had nurtured in her youth had long since declined, no longer able to nourish her body. So she was a bit far-sighted, managing to see distant things but finding it difficult to read letters up close. Russell planned to give the reading glasses as a gift during his grandmother's birthday banquet. Of course, what he intended to craft were not a whole pair of reading glasses, but 2 monoculars with chains, the sort of old-fashioned single-lens glasses. Reading glasses also came with various strengths, and without the ability to test her eyesight accurately, he could only make 2 monoculars of different strengths for his grandmother to try. Should she find them effective, he could later request someone to make a more accurate pair of reading glasses. "Sir, you are truly filial," Charles exclaimed. "What's more miraculous is that a simple crystal can enable someone with presbyopia to see clearly again. It's absolutely incredible. In life, wonders are everywhere, as long as one knows how to find them," Russell replied with a smile. He believed his gift would certainly make his grandmother very happy. And it wasn't expensive either, just 2 pieces of clear crystal. Actually, glasses could also be made from glass, but Russell felt that was too low grade, and besides, the glass manufacturing here wasn't up to standard, containing too many impurities. Of course, before stumbling upon the gem stall, he had considered making a few earth dishes for his grandmother. But considering the difficulties in communicating with Mrs. Moore and the low probability of achieving this, he thought it better to switch to reading glasses. The caravan brought many novel items, and as Russell wandered, the day turned to dusk. "Sir, shall we return to Wuyao Snake Manor now, or shall we stay at Fluorescent Castle?" Charles asked. "Neither to Fluorescent Castle nor back home. Let's just find a small inn to stay in town. By the way, there are inns here, right?" Charles was somewhat distressed. "Of course there are, but your status is exalted. It's just for one night. It doesn't matter," Russell said, his purpose far from simple. "Life on the snowfield is much worse than a small inn, but sooner or later, we'll fight there, won't we? Consider it an early adaptation." "All right, as you wish. Mr. Charles, you can go home for the night. Come back tomorrow morning." Russell gave Charles time off. Charles, whose cock had indeed been idle for far too long, chuckled with delight at the news. "Thank you for your generosity and kindness, sir." Nighttime. Within the cramped small inn, Russell had a room to himself. The personal servant and several night attendants squeezed into another. The arrival of the caravan meant no spare rooms at the inn. Despite the somewhat unpleasant smell, Russell still settled down to sleep comfortably. Once he was deep in slumber, accompanied by a jay sound, gloomy dreamland descended once more, enveloping a large area of the surrounding streets, centered on the small inn. He mounted the little dream dragon. Instantly, spots of magic light began to shine on the streets. It's treasure hunting time again. Ice cream. Let's set off. Russell chose to stay in the small inn precisely for this moment. In the daytime, he could not discern the quality of many items brought by the caravan. But now, within the bounds of gloomy dreamland, anything worth picking up would have nowhere to hide. GA. One man and one dragon flew slowly toward the first cluster of magic light. Very good. These should be magic elixirs. The light is so intense because it's concentrated, and it seems there are no fakes. Russell arrived at a stall that had already closed for the day, with the owner sleeping inside the tent of his stall. He nodded and left the place. Magic elixirs were meaningless to him. He could completely rely on Fluorescent Castle for freebies rather than spending money to purchase them. Having looked over most of the magic items throughout the market, Russell found very little opportunity for a bargain. Merchants who travel with caravans might pass off ordinary goods as magic creations, but the reverse, selling magic items as ordinary ones, just didn't happen. Regrettable. Russell was deeply disappointed when it seemed like his hope to stumble upon a bargain had fallen through. He then mounted the little dream dragon and rode toward another cluster of magic light at the edge of gloomy dreamland. He soon let out a surprised exclamation. This appears to be a livestock stall. Cages on the wagon hold many little lambs, calves, and puppies. What's glowing seems to be a sow. It's the sow's belly that's shining, as if something is coiled inside this. The surprise was too unexpected, too sudden. At a stall that typically sold young farm animals, there was a pregnant sow that seemed to carry a fantasy beast baby. Could it really be a fantasy beast baby? Russell closely observed the pregnant sow, but since the piglet hadn't developed enough to be discernible and the glow was very faint, threatening to die out at any moment, he couldn't see any details. After all, for an ordinary animal to carry a fantasy beast baby was incredibly hard. But if it truly was pregnant with one, given enough nutrition and time, the payback could be worth countless times the investment. I'll take this sow. GA. The little dream dragon couldn't understand Russell's interest in a sow, let out a cry, expressing its tiredness. The gloomy dreamland then dissipated, and consciousness slid back into chaos. The next morning, Russell awoke from his sleep, promptly woke his night attendant, and hurried to the livestock stall. The stall owner had not yet opened for business and was feeding the young animals. Upon learning of Russell's intent, he immediately dropped the feed and enthusiastically began to pitch. This sow, sir, was not easy to bring over. Fearing the piglets couldn't withstand the cold on the journey, we transported her over before she'd given birth. The sow was entirely black, busily munching on pigweed. The owner continued, "This is a fine breed, the golden black pig. Do you have your own manor, sir? You could completely raise these golden black pigs. After a year, you can harvest succulent golden black pork whether roasted or smoked. It's unparalleled." Golden black pigs were specialty pork of Baron Gold's lands. Russell had only eaten it at banquets in Fluorescent Castle. The taste was indeed delicious. "So," he said with a smile, "Okay, I'll take this sow. How much?" "To your convenience, just 1 gold coin plus 16 silver coins." The price was reasonable, so Russell didn't bother to haggle and nodded. "Ram, pay the man. Jack, you and the others transport the sow back to the estate. Be careful of the bumps and try not to harm the piglet inside the sow's belly." Understood. The night attendants promptly took the owner's wagon and hired a peasant from the town to pull it toward Wee Owl Snake Manor. Russell stayed in town and continued to browse the market, visiting every caravan there. After collecting the 2 single mirrors he had ordered from a lamp store, he reunited with Mr. Charles, and they both headed back to the estate. Red Castle is the power center of the Shadow Flame Grand Duchy. The Shadow Flame family built a magnificent palace at the foot of a volcano, named the Grand Duke Inyan's Palace, and because the castle's exterior is dark red, it is also called Red Castle. Russell responded indifferently, "It's just a trifle." I believe Lady Ingrid will definitely love this gift. Not only is it very practical, but it also contains the filial piety you have for her. Indeed, heartfelt filial piety. When Russell answered, his mindset was very calm. Passing through this realm, he had inherited the body of his predecessor, and, thus, the bloodline of the fluorescent fungi family. Whether as cause or effect, the fluorescent fungi family was his kin, and it was right to maintain this bond of blood. Instead of being rebellious and thinking one is naturally superior. Master, the gold and black mother pig has been settled in. Butler Morris approached. This old sow is in good health. According to your instructions, I have arranged for the manservant Fox to take special care of it, and have the kitchen prepare a separate meal for its nourishment. Very good, Russell said contentedly. I sense a familiar essence flowing in this gold and black mother pig. Be sure to take good care of it. As you wish, master. A familiar essence, sir? What do you mean? Mr. Charles, putting down the magnifying glass, asked curiously. I'm talking about something similar to Kevin's essence. After Kevin resolved the half-ghost beast crisis, but before it evolved into a fantasy beast, that kind of faint essence. Ah, Mr. Charles's eyes widened. Sir, are you saying that this gold and black mother pig is actually pregnant with a fantasy beast baby? Perhaps it is, perhaps not. Good heavens, watched over by the great dragon. Mr. Charles clasped his head. Russell waited for him to calm down from his excitement before speaking slowly. Don't get your hopes too high, Mr. Charles. On the way back, I observed carefully this gold and black mother pig is indeed pregnant with a fantasy beast baby, but the chances of a successful gestation are very slim. Indeed, Mr. Charles slowly regained his composure. The success rate of a female beast giving birth to a fantasy beast baby is too small. So my idea now is to take good care of her, provide her with sufficient nutrition, and leave the rest to the Grand Duchy's great dragon to see if it would pay any further attention. Russell smiled faintly. In fact, he was thinking of having the little dream dragon make a move. At this moment, Eric, who had gone to check on the gold and black mother pig, also walked over. So Russell asked, How is it? The gold and black mother pig is truly carrying a fantasy beast baby, right? Yes, sir, Eric nodded, then shook his head, but the essence is a bit weak, and the sow is about to give birth soon. It would likely be difficult to gestate a fantasy beast. Maybe a miracle will happen. Wasn't Kevin a miracle? Russell was quite confident. With the presence of the little dream dragon, a dreamlike great dragon, helping a fantasy beast to successfully gestate would be just a matter of a burst of dragon flame. Perhaps a bit of an overkill. However, for the time being, Russell could only rely on the little dream dragon to provide this bit of assistance. But when night fell and he went asleep, gloomy dreamland descended once more, and Russell realized his miscalculation. The little dream dragon simply ignored his persuasion. It had no intention of helping the gold and black mother pig gestate a fantasy beast baby, only cocking its head cutely. Gah! Breathe out. Dragon flame. Just lend a burst of dragon flame. Gah! Please, ice cream. It's a fantasy beast baby we're talking about. You wouldn't want to see a fantasy beast baby miscarried, would you? God, remember the birch bugs? Come, I'll take you to see the birch bugs. Look how adorable these birch bugs are, plump and plump. These are the ones you helped to gestate. All right, you little great dragon with a heart of stone. In the end, Russell gave up on communication with the little dream dragon. It was unclear whether the little dream dragon was too tired from its last breath of dragon flame to use it again, or it simply couldn't help the fantasy beast to gestate. But it showed no interest in the golden black sow. The dream ended. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in the curtains as Russell sat up in bed, recalling the events that had taken place in the gloomy dreamland. With a wry shake of his head and a smile, he said, "Ah, well, if ice cream disagrees, then that's that. It's just a fantasy beast, after all. It wouldn't be of much use to me." In his territory, Eric was the only great knight, and he had successfully contracted with a gold and silver wolfhound. The rest, Charles, Tom, Jack, John, James, or Katie and Catherine, did not meet the criteria to contract a fantasy beast. As for Russell himself, Becoming a great knight would take a long time. But when I think about it carefully, baby fantasy beasts also need time to grow. I definitely won't contract a golden black pig, but Tom and the others could wait, reflected Russell, a lord who still cared about his reputation. The golden black pigs were rather unsightly, and being called the Black Pig Knight after contracting one would be embarrassing. Forget it. Leave the baby fantasy beast to its fate. If it miscarries, so be it. I just hope that next time I find a gestating spirit insect, ice cream will be more generous and not stingy with a breath of dragon flame, Russell hoped. I can always kill more snow ghosts and extract ice pellet pearls to feed it. The warm season had already arrived, and the trade routes were open once more. Soon, Baron Yogwang would lead an expedition to clear the snow ghosts from the roads. Russell planned to join them. With the protection of Phantom Beast Knight Eric, safety wasn't an issue. Having made up his mind, he pulled the bell rope by his bed. A new day began. After washing up with the help of his servants and having breakfast downstairs, Russell started his nightly morning practice. It was still the same move from the radiant swordsmanship technique, repeated hundreds of times until he was utterly exhausted. Yet he found joy in it, especially feeling the battle chi cut through his arm's meridians, bit by bit, under the guidance of the move. The sensation was simply wonderful. In the morning, he would routinely inspect his land, see how the crops at several outposts were doing, and then check a few of the cordyceps in Magic Medicine Ton. After lunch, he would take a brief nap. In the afternoon, he changed into a well-tailored nobleman's robe, put on expensive leather riding boots, tied his cravat, and donned a glamorous red cape. His finger-length pale golden hair was also carefully groomed and tied in a small braid at the back of his head. He looked at himself in the mirror. He might have lacked a bit of the dashing and debonair appearance, since he was only 16 and his face was still a bit youthful. But with well-defined features, handsome brows and bright eyes, and not a single flaw on his fair-skinned face, plus his tall frame, he had truly inherited good looks. "Sir, you look more like a nobleman than any other," head maid Leona, who had arranged the hair by his temples, sincerely complimented. "That's thanks to my mother, who passed the Rainflower family's looks down to me perfectly," Russell said with a smile. His brother, sisters, and younger sister all resembled the Baron. They weren't ugly, but they were nowhere near handsome or pretty. He was the only one who had inherited his mother's beauty. His battle chi cultivation talent was another story, however. Nevertheless, it wasn't too bad. His predecessor had traded his life to pave the way for his cultivation. As long as he kept working hard, he would eventually become a great knight. And once he contracted a fantasy beast or mounted dragon, he could transform his lot and climb to the pinnacle. "Let's go." "Eric, Mr. Charles," Russell said as he mounted his horse. He was heading to Fluorescent Castle. Tomorrow was his grandmother Lady Ingrid's birthday. Fantasy beasts could serve as mounts, but they weren't limited to that role. Kevin's physique was somewhat small. While carrying the weight of an adult posed no problem, coordinating with a knight in combat proved to be difficult. The true combat method of a fantasy beast was phantasmal transformation. Of course, Eric and Kevin had not yet reached the stage of phantasmal transformation and could only fight separately, cooperating as a team. Following behind them were Charles, Tom, and other knight attendants, along with the personal servant Ram. After 2 hours of galloping, they arrived at Fluorescent Castle. "Mr. Russell, welcome home." Carter, the old butler, greeted with a smile at the gate, personally waiting every time Russell returned home. "Has grandmother arrived yet, Mr. Carter?" Russell asked as he casually took off his cloak and coat, handing them to Ram. As for others, such as Charles and Eric, there were people to attend to them. "Lady Ingrid plans to come over tomorrow. She wishes to soak in the hot springs in the morning to replenish her spirits before facing the grand occasion of the birthday celebration." It certainly is a grand occasion. Who has confirmed their attendance this year? 2 pieces of good news. Lord Cooper and Miss Rowland will be attending the birthday celebration. They may arrive tonight or by tomorrow morning. Another is Mr. Rowland. He has completed his service with the Dragon Blood Knights and will meet Lord Cooper on the way to come here together. Big brother and sister's family will all be coming, Russell smiled. Grandmother is sure to be thrilled. It's rare for the members of the Fluorescent Fungi family to reunite, and we servants are equally delighted, said the old butler Carter, who had been contentedly speaking. He had never married and had long come to regard Russell, Roland, and the others as his own children. Russell said with a smile, "You're not just a servant. You're our family member." The old butler Carter was touched. "Mr. Russell." Before Carter could get any more emotional, Russell turned and entered the living room, where he saw a group of people dressed in noble attire, happily chatting around Baron Roman. "Russell, you've arrived just in time." Baron Roman beckoned for Russell to come over. "Let me introduce you to a few lords. This here is Lord Ort Willow from the Gravel Domain, and this is Lord Dave Goldencap from the Golden Prairie." The 2 earls and 5 barons from the Shadowflame Grand Duchy were intermarried and intertwined, with relationships that were complex and deeply rooted. Thus, for Lady Ingrid's birthday, each family would send a collateral lord to offer their congratulations. In the future, as Russell grew up, he would also bear this responsibility, representing Glowing Valley in diplomatic visits to other domains. Of course, the current Russell was still too young, and this task was undertaken by his uncle, Rosan Fluorescent Spore, who traveled on behalf of the family. "Russell, do you remember your Uncle Dave?" A rugged middle-aged man did not wait for Baron Roman to make the introduction, but quickly approached and enveloped Russell in a tight bear hug. "You've gotten even sturdier. I knew your training wouldn't fall behind. Haha." "Uncle Dave, when did you get here?" asked Russell with a smile. Having inherited the memories of his predecessor, Russell naturally knew this middle-aged man, Dave Goldencap. He was a vassal of Baron Davis Goldencap, and also Davis's cousin, frequently going back and forth between their 2 domains. "I arrived yesterday. Your aunt was in such a hurry." Dave laughed uproariously. "The ice receded late this year. Your aunt has been a bit under the weather, or else your uncle would have surely accompanied her to visit Lady Ingrid." Russell quickly asked, "Is my aunt doing all right?" He not only had an uncle, but, in fact, also had an aunt who was married to Baron Davis Goldencap. They currently have 1 daughter named Diana. "It's about the same as in previous years. It's not a big deal, just can't be in the cold wind," Dave replied. "That's good." After greeting Lord Dave Goldencap, Russell greeted the other 4 lords in turn and then sat down to chat casually. The Duke has just ascended the throne, and the current stance of Redcastle is to prioritize stability. Once its wings have grown strong, especially once the Shadow Flame Dragon has fully recovered from its injuries, we'll head out to war and continue to expand our territories, Lord Ort Willow said. But it seems the Duke is somewhat impatient. "What is Count Brokenstone's stance?" Baron Roman asked. "My lord is clearly in favor of stability. The Shadow Flame Dragon has fought year after year, and it's also time to rest for a few years to gather strength." Baron Roman turned to ask, "Dave, what does Baron Davis think? I remember he's also one to rush forward." Dave spread his hands. "I don't know. The Baron rarely talks about these topics in his domain." Russell, curious, interjected, "The Duke is the same age as me, not yet married. Would the Shadowflame family really agree to let him go to the battlefield? The previous Duke died in battle on the snowfield, leaving only the current Duke as the sole heir to their bloodline. If another accident occurred, the Shadowflame family's crown might fall into the hands of collateral branches. At that time, the Shadowflame Grand Duchy would likely see significant turmoil, especially the Shadowflame Dragon, already seriously injured once. If mishaps happened again, the entire country would suffer." The barons and others remained silent. Only Lord Dave Goldencap spread his hands again. "Who knows?" Baron Roman quickly moved past the topic, as after all, everyone present was merely a common lord, with no say in national affairs. He patted Russell on the shoulder. "You go see your mother first. Ask her if she needs help with tomorrow's banquet." "Okay." Russell stood up to take his leave. In fact, he did not enjoy this kind of noble interaction. If he were just a listener, that would have been fine. He loved hearing all kinds of rumors from the outside world. But having to join the conversation, whether to agree or to get a few laughs, was a bit tiresome. His mother Meryl was in the reception hall on the 2nd floor, preparing for tomorrow's banquet with Lola. Servants, attendants, and hired workers moved in and out, reporting every detail to the Baroness, who would then coordinate and arrange the tasks. A banquet was a major undertaking, involving the most meticulously observed noble etiquettes, where not the slightest negligence was tolerated. Lola, who was only 11, needed to start learning now. Someday, she too would marry into a domain, possibly even an earl's domain, and she would manage a household and arrange such banquets. "Mother Lola," Russell greeted. "Russell, you're here." Meryl looked up and smiled, then said, "I'm too busy here. Go chat with your father and the others in the hall for a while, and then wait to welcome your sister, brother-in-law, and your eldest brother." "Okay," Russell replied with a smile. He went downstairs, back to the hall, to continue listening to a few lords share stories of the snowfield. However, there weren't many good stories. Most were tedious battlefield narratives. The barons and others might find them deeply engaging, but Russell found them dull. He had not yet experienced the brutal combat on the snowfields. Merely on the fringes of the domain, under the pressure of the Phantom Beast Knights, he had teamed up with a small squadron of knights to slay merely 12 snow ghosts. So soon, he began to recall his elder brother Roland and his sister Roland. Roland, his elder brother by 6 years, had been serving in the Dragon Blood Knights since his coming of age. Accompanying the yet-to-reign Archduke, training and ghost hunting together, he laid the groundwork for a strong personal friendship between future monarch and subject. His sister, Roland, 3 years his senior, had married the eldest son of the Baron of Blackgarden, Cooper Thistlegrass, just last year. Then there was his younger sister, Lola, 5 years his junior. My big brother is a qualified heir to nobility, Russell thought to himself, giving such an assessment to his own dear brother. As for his sister Roland, he didn't want to make any comment. Being married off is the best outcome. Compared to the quiet Lola, Roland was the most unstable factor within Fluorescent Castle, whipping the servants, talking back to her parents, bullying her brother and sister, and never yielding to her elder brother, who managed to harness Battle Chi just a few days later than her, making her quite the scourge of the castle. Fortunately, this scourge had already married off to Blackgarden Mountain, becoming their problem now. Russell's thoughts didn't wander for too long. With the ringing of a few bells, Fluorescent Castle quickly stirred into action. Carter, the old butler, called out excitedly for all the servants to line up outside the main gate in welcome, and after composing himself, entered the great hall. "Sir, my lords, Mr. Roland, Lord Cooper, and Miss Roland have arrived." "They have finally arrived." The Baron rose, appearing rather nonchalant, though the rocking of his chair was slightly more pronounced. Everyone followed Baron Roman out of the castle gates swiftly. The male and female servants had already formed a line to the right of the main gate, led by the old butler Carter. Russell and a few lords, along with Lola, waited on the left side of the gate. Only Baron Roman and Lady Meryl, the Baroness who arrived after him, stood right in front of the gate. In formal noble society, the greeting ritual was of great importance. Not only did the nobles need to welcome each other, but they also had to demonstrate their servants' demeanor to reflect the aristocratic teachings of etiquette. Several tall and majestic horses, escorting a carriage, slowly approached the front of the gate. A young knight, bearing a certain resemblance to Baron Roman, led the way, with another young knight, his smile warm and genial, riding beside him. Both dismounted, and then the knight resembling the Baron walked straight to the Baron and Baroness, bowed and said, "Father, Mother, I appreciate your patience. After half a year, it's wonderful to be back at Fluorescent Castle." This man of unremarkable appearance was Russell's elder brother, Roland, now a great knight, though he had yet to bond with a fantasy beast. "Good. It's good you are back." Baron Roman nodded slightly. Lady Meryl gently embraced Roland. "My son, you've had a hard time these years, but at last your troubles have turned into joy." They didn't embrace for too long, for the other knight, with his warm smile, had walked to the carriage side and waited for a young noblewoman, dressed dazzlingly, to alight. Then he took her arm, and together they approached the Baron and Baroness. "Father, Mother." The young noblewoman was Roland. "Cooper, Roland, "Was your journey smooth?" asked Baron Roman with a smile. "Your grandmother sent someone yesterday to inquire about your trip." "Everything went smoothly, especially after meeting up with Big Brother. It all got even smoother," Lord Cooper responded with a smile. Father and son-in-law exchanged pleasantries and joked for a few moments. Lady Merrill had already pulled Roland aside for a heartwarming chat. Roland, meanwhile, greeted the lords, knowing each one well and maintaining a demeanor that perfectly exhibited his noble breeding. All the way up, he finally approached Russell. Russell recalled the memories of interactions with his elder brother from a previous life, and then broke into a wide smile. Roland took a step back, examining Russell closely, then opened his arms wide and gave Russell a firm embrace. "My dear brother, you've finally taken this step. Mother wrote to me. You know how excited I am for you." "Yes," Russell replied, patting Roland's back vigorously. "Although I couldn't catch up with you and sister, I finally didn't let Father down." "What are you talking about?" "As long as you are healthy, Father and Mother will be very happy." Roland released his hand, saying enthusiastically, "Now that you've successfully blossomed into a battle chi, we brothers can fight side by side in the future, hunting ghosts on the snowfield together. I'm also looking forward to—" Russell's words were cut off. Roland had already turned and walked toward Lola, then laughed and embraced her. "Ah, my dear little sister, brother thinks of you every day." Seeing this, Russell swallowed the rest of his words, retaining only a smile. On the other side, Baron Roman watched Roland with a scene of brotherly respect and deep sibling affection unfolding before him, revealing a contented smile, but he quickly regained his composure to maintain the dignity befitting a baron. Miss Roland and Lady Merrill shared their feelings of parting for a long while before following Lord Cooper, exchanging greetings with the other lords. When it came to Russell, he and Cooper greeted each other politely. Roland's eyes lit up, and her ordinary features began to shine. "You are now an armed knight. Russell, have a match with your sister later. Let me properly guide you in cultivating your battle chi, so you can avoid taking any detours." Russell responded with a smile. "Sister, are you looking for an excuse to give me a thrashing? What? Must I spell it out for you so plainly?" Roland raised an eyebrow. "And there are plenty of reasons to thrash you. Have you ever written to your sister after being granted your share?" Russell stammered, "You're just like Big Brother, both heartless." Fortunately, Roland was only complaining, and then she embraced Russell. "You must visit Black Garden Mountain when you have time. Your sister misses you a lot." "I definitely will. I miss sister too." "No, you don't. Not sincerely." Roland rolled her eyes. Russell was a bit overwhelmed by Roland's back and forth, and could only join in with an awkward laugh. At this moment, Cooper suddenly conveyed an indescribable look with his eyes. Understanding the hint, Russell responded with a smile. After the initial greetings were over, the group moved into the castle's living room where the old steward Carter bustled about, constantly directing the servants to serve tea, pour water, offer various sweets, and also to arrange for the batch of servants that Lord Cooper had brought along. Busy as he was, Carter's face was always touched with an elusive smile. "Your body is as robust as before, Mr. Carter. That's wonderful to see," said Roland, looking at Carter with a smile. Carter responded, "I have always taken good care of my body, hoping to serve you a few more times. I hope to see you greeting us at the door every time I return." "I will do my best, miss." "Not do my best, but ensure." "I assure you, miss." There were many people in the living room, and the servants shuttled back and forth without stop, yet it did not seem noisy. After all, this living room was larger than a standard basketball court. The nobles chatted among themselves. People talking on one side may not even be heard by those on the other side. Roland mingled among the lords, and despite having just arrived home, he quickly assumed the role of the host. Lady Merrill was whispering with Roland and Lola on the side. Baron Roman maintained his baron's dignity, allowing Roland to warm up the crowd, only occasionally participating with a comment or two. As for Russell, he sat together with his brother-in-law, Lord Cooper. The two men didn't have much to say, but instead shared a harmonious bond reminiscent of huddling together for warmth. Enhance your reading experience by removing It had only been a month and a half since the territory allocations began after the coming-of-age ceremony. And there were pearls, too. Father said that wearing pearls long-term can moisturize the skin, keeping it constantly lustrous. Lola took out a black pearl pendant from her neckline. I've been wearing it the whole time, and it really feels great. Roland looked over curiously. Pearls? Where did these come from? Russell gave them to me. Mother and grandmother have them, too. Is that so, Russell? Roland turned her head. And you never thought of giving your dear sister a pearl? I have. Russell nonchalantly took out a small box from his bosom. I prepared it long ago for you, my dear sister. Forethought was one of Russell's principles. Moreover, this beloved sister used to be a major nuisance at Fluorescent Castle. So naturally, Russell had to think carefully and had the pearls made into jewelry well in advance. He handed the box to Roland. A necklace and a ring. I've given my last 2 pearls to you, sister. Of the 5 pearls, Russell didn't keep any for himself. Apart from the 3 he had previously given away, he gave away these last 2 small pearls together. Otherwise, had he only given 1 small pearl, who knows what kind of trouble Roland, with her personality, might have stirred up. They're beautiful. Roland loved such shiny and smooth things. You really are my dear brother. This is too valuable, Roland. After all, Russell has only just received his fief, Cooper Thistlegrass commented softly. Roland immediately rolled her eyes. This is love between siblings, Cooper. You don't have a sister nor a brother, of course. You wouldn't understand. Cooper could only smile helplessly. Russell spoke with a smile. It's not that valuable, merely a bit rare. It's seldom that one finds pearls fostered by clams with magic power. What about mine, Russell? Roland asked casually. Russell shook his head with a chuckle. Pearls are good for nurturing beauty, useless to us, so neither father nor you have them, and I've given away mine as well. Mr. Luo Man glanced at his second son's handsome face and felt somewhat indignant, so he nodded in agreement. Indeed, men don't need to nurture their appearance. Letting the wind and snow leave marks on one's face, that is the true mark of a knight. I don't think so, Lady Merrill retorted. You may want to keep your scars, but I don't wish to see any marks on Roland's or Russell's faces. As she spoke, she cast an especially satisfied look at Russell and smiled contentedly. She had 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, but Russell's appearance was the one she was most pleased with. Talking about talents and whatnot, those could always be made up for with postnatal efforts, such as taking medicine or intense training, but being handsome was truly a lifelong matter. The banquet ended, and the lords each returned to their rooms to rest. Only Russell's family remained, chatting in another small living room. Of course, the main conversation was between Mr. Luo Man and Roland, discussing matters from the court, while Lady Merrill and Roland were talking about life after marriage. Russell, Cooper, and Lola were mainly listening in. The Archduke is indeed ambitious, wanting to open up new territories, which could also help speed up the recovery of the Shadow Flame Dragon, Roland said. Though the snow giant fled with severe injuries, the Archduke is always worried it may return. Thus he hopes this might win the Shadow Flame Dragon's approval. How is the relationship between the Shadow Flame Dragon and the Archduke? It should be fine. I seldom see the Shadow Flame Dragon. In recent years, the Shadow Flame Dragon has been slumbering in the volcanoes, and only the Duke visits often. Have you discovered anything about the investigation into the snow giants? No, the snowfield is too vast. Red Castle has launched countless flying dragon search missions, but they haven't found the lair of the snow giants. Roland said, then reassured, Father, there's no need to worry about anything. In recent years, the situation with the Shadow Flame Dragon has been very stable, and all the territories are warm and strong, aren't they? If the snow giants dare to step foot in our domain, they will surely face a crushing counterattack from the Shadow Flame Dragon. Russell asked with curiosity, since the Shadow Flame Dragon can just rest easy, why is the Duke in such a hurry to gain approval? A great dragon can suppress a nation, protect a nation for 1,000 years. But very, very few knights have truly gained the approval of a great dragon. Most of the time, dragons are solitary creatures, and not just anyone with Shadow Flame family blood can command them. After all, the power of a contract originates from the dragon itself, and naturally cannot bind the dragon itself. The Duke is still young, just like you, Russell, Roland said calmly. It's normal for him to be eager to achieve something, but I will advise him more. As he spoke, Roland added, the Duke is still very willing to accept my advice. Mr. Luoman nodded and said, it's good that you can build trust with the Duke, Roland. Now that you have retired from the Dragon Blood Knights, you must not lose contact with the Duke. Not only should you correspond regularly, but you should also visit Red Castle every month or two. Understood, Roland chuckled lightly. Then he jokingly added, if Mr. Ross could approve of me, it would be much more convenient. I could fly back and forth between Red Castle and Glowing Valley every day. You're going to have to work harder to win Mr. Ross's approval, Baron Roman said in a relaxed manner. He had long since faced reality. Chances were he would never gain Mr. Ross's approval in his lifetime, and he could only pin his hopes on his eldest son now. Then I'll go pay a visit to Mr. Ross right now. I just came back from Red Castle and brought some nice things for Ross. Go ahead, go ahead. Russell, do you want to come with me? Roland turned and asked. Russell shook his head. You go on your own, big brother. I don't know what I did recently to offend Mr. Ross, but he seems to dislike me. Is that so? That's really unfortunate, Roland said with regret, but his steps quickened considerably. After Roland left, Baron Roman, Lord Cooper, and Russell had little to talk about, so they listened to the chatter of the women. Which family servant made a mistake and was hung up and whipped by their master? Which noble lady had made a fool of herself and became the butt of jokes? And which slapstick play was good to watch? Which garments suited each other's temperament better? And so on. They didn't chat too late into the night before the Baron sent everyone off to rest. Take a bath. Russell returned to his original room, where the window was open, perfectly framing the distant city wall's tower. Mr. Ross was crouching on top of the tower like a gargoyle, looking down over Fluorescent Castle from his lofty perch. Roland lay next to Mr. Ross's claw, leaning against the rooftop's tiles, his eyes fervently fixed on Mr. Ross, incessantly speaking. Mr. Ross occasionally exhaled faint puffs of dragon breath from his nostrils, responding to Roland's words. Quite the tender scene. Russell took a brief look, shut the window, lay down in bed, and silently fell asleep, awaiting the arrival of gloomy dreamland, when Fluorescent Castle would become his and the little dream dragon's realm. In gloomy dreamland, Russell and the little dream dragon had scoured the entire Fluorescent Castle from top to bottom. Russell knew better than the Baron himself just how rich the Baron was. Too bad they're not for me. Russell chuckled, merely letting out a sigh without any covetousness. He was becoming ever more convinced that the little dream dragon was a great dragon. As a knight who even had a great dragon, how could he longing for the trifles outside? Mixing with the little dream dragon. In dreams, he would have everything eventually. Goodbye. Consciousness faded, and when he woke up again, it was already daylight. There was no need to pull the rope. The maids' voices were already calling from outside. Mr. Russell, good morning. 7:30, really punctual indeed. Russell sat up from his bed, yawned, and said, come in. So soon, with the attendance of the servants, he changed into his festive attire. Good morning, Lola. Good morning, Russell. Good morning, sister. Good morning, Cooper. Seeing his sleepy-eyed sister and brother-in-law, Russell's mood instantly lightened up. Even his sister, who had married away, and her husband, had to adhere to the rule of getting up at 7:30 a.m. in the Fluorescent Castle. So what was there for him not to accept? Good morning, Russell. I'm so sleepy, Roland greeted while rubbing her eyes and complaining. I really want to finish having the baby soon so that I could wash and eat breakfast in bed and get up whenever I feel like it. In noble society, women who had given birth and became mothers were entitled to wash and dine in bed, sleeping in as late as they wished. Let Cooper work harder at night, and that day will come soon. Russell chuckled. Roland immediately clenched her fist and shook it. You're getting bolder, Russell, daring to tease your sister like that. A duel now, right away, immediately. Let me have breakfast first. You actually dare to accept the challenge. Indeed, You've grown bolder than before. Sister, you're an armed knight, and so am I. There's nothing I should be afraid to accept. Russell smiled and stated a fact. There was certainly a gap between them, but Russell was no longer intimidated. The days when Roland could lord over him were ready for their curtain call. This time, it was Roland's turn to be taken aback. She patted Cooper's arm. My little brother has decided to rebel. Cooper, what do you think I should do to suppress it? Cooper spread his hands. This is a private matter between you and your brother. Please allow me to stay out of it. And also, good luck. After breakfast, night training class, a duel. Roland issued her challenge. Russell didn't refuse. All right. At this moment, Roland came downstairs, and upon seeing him, Roland immediately called out, Roland, come witness after breakfast. I'm going to teach this arrogant fool a lesson. I've only been away from Glowing Valley for a few days, and he dares to rebel. Roland waved his hand. You guys are really boring. Then he turned to Cooper and inquired, was Roland this much of a troublemaker when she went to Blackgarden Mountain? Was it not very annoying for you? She was quite a lady at Blackgarden Mountain. She might be just releasing her true nature coming back to Glowing Valley. But such a Roland is also cute, isn't she? Cooper replied gently. Cute. Roland was non-committal, perhaps. The breakfast was exceptionally lavish. In addition to the regular fish and egg-stewed rice, there was bread, milk, fruit tea, fried eggs, bacon, vegetable salad, and also fish from the river, shrimp, and even a pot of thick, sticky soup emitting waves of medicinal fragrance. This was chi and blood ointment, previously sold at the merchant caravan stall. A cover-the-teapot-sized portion of chi and blood ointment cost 3 silver coins. But here one could drink it freely. Facing such an opportunity to take advantage, Russell would not let it pass. He scooped bowl after bowl of the chi and blood ointment to drink, even though the taste was actually not good. Have you never seen anything good before? Roland said with disdain. I'm storing up energy. After breakfast, I still have to face you in battle, my sister, Russell said without any embarrassment. After ingesting the chi and blood ointment, one could clearly feel a warm flow spreading from the stomach, diffusing to the limbs and bones. Accompanied by this were the battle chi in the meridians that unconsciously synchronized with the warm flow, beginning to slowly refine the nutrients in the chi and blood ointment, nourishing new battle chi. The efficiency was not very high, but this one meal of chi and blood ointment could at least generate a quantity of battle chi that would take 3 to 5 days of hard practice to produce. With stomachs full and thirst quenched, everyone arrived at the castle's back training ground, which was the place where knights in the castle practiced, and also where Russell and the others had trained in battle chi from childhood. Are you ready, rookie? Roland changed into a set of light battle clothes and took a fiery red longsword. Its hilt was inlaid with red gemstones. Russell also changed into battle gear, which was a suit of close-fitting light armor. The personal servant Ram presented his green ceramic sword, and Eric, serving as the night teacher, softly cautioned, Miss Roland's limbs and meridians are all connected. It's very difficult to win by brute strength. You can only rely on swordsmanship skills. Knights in full armor cannot externalize their battle chi for combat. Theoretically speaking, the battle relies on the body's own strength. Even though Russell's progress was lacking, with his arm meridians not yet connected, it did not necessarily mean he was much weaker than Roland. After all, Roland was a woman, and her physiological structure meant that her combat power would be discounted. I'll do my best, Russell said as he grasped the green ceramic sword, twirled a sword flower in his hand, and then stepped into the center of the arena. Roland glared at Russell with malicious eyes. Rookie, you're going to pay for your arrogance. Your trash talk can't scare me anymore, my dear sister. Russell glared back unafraid. He was no longer the inferior and cowardly person he used to be, who shrank under the oppressive might of his brother Roland and sister Roland. Moreover, he had even hunted the fearsome snow ghost, so how could he be afraid of Roland? Seeing that verbal attacks were indeed useless, Roland no longer wasted words and directly swung her red longsword, launching an attack on Russell. The moves were mighty and powerful, showing Roland's deep mastery of battle chi. Russell, however, did not show any sign of nervousness, but instead breathed a sigh of relief, because he realized that Roland's momentum was far from the great knight level. So weak, he silently lamented, and Russell straightway swung his sword to meet her, executing a well-practiced thrust from the radiant swordsmanship technique. Clang! The two fine swords collided, producing a clear, metallic clash. Russell and Roland each took a step back. This exchange ended in a draw. Roland frowned and began another sword attack. Russell breathed another sigh of relief, as the sister in his memory who liked to show off her fighting prowess was much weaker than he had imagined. Perhaps there was still a gap between them, but it was a gap that could be bridged, not like when he faced Eric, where he couldn't find any opportunity for victory. The same radiant swordsmanship technique, the same arm knight. In just a short moment, the siblings had exchanged dozens of moves on the field. Roland gradually gained the upper hand, her red longsword like a cluster of flames, pressuring Russell so much that he could barely lift his head. But the sword in Russell's hand was steady, solidly guarding the space 3 feet in front of him. Occasionally, an unexpected thrust would tear open a gap through Roland's pressure, forcing her to retract her sword to defend herself. "Roland is getting anxious," Baron Roman said, his arm entwined with that of his wife Meryl's, as they arrived at the edge of the field. She knew her younger son had inherited her beauty, but also knew he had not inherited his father's talent for cultivation. Of course, she also knew her elder daughter hadn't inherited her beauty, but had received Baron Roman's talent for cultivation. At 13, she had already awakened the chi seed and cultivated true battle chi. Now, 5 years later, her battle chi was even more powerful, so she was somewhat unable to understand the current situation. He might win, or he might lose, depending on whether Roland can calm down. But right now, it seems Roland is becoming more and more anxious, said the Baron. He then added, Russell's combat talent is far more outstanding than his cultivation talent. He is steady and making progress, skillfully avoiding his weaknesses, just like a coiled, poisonous snake, waiting patiently for the fatal strike. Like your king of ebony-waisted snakes, Lady Meryl mused. The Blackway serpent is the most commonly seen venomous snake in Glowing Valley and is also considered a local specialty, with its gall, meat, and blood all serving as auxiliary materials for magic elixirs. Moreover, among these Blackway serpents, there was born a fantasy beast, the king of ebony-waisted snakes, which had been contracted by Baron Roman. The domain granted to Russell, Wuyao Snake Manor, was named after this fantasy beast. The king of ebony-waisted snakes was originally discovered within the manor itself. However, as the farmlands of the Wuyao Snake Manor were plowed, sightings of the Blackway serpents became increasingly rare. Indeed, very much so, the Baron smiled. Meanwhile, the battle grew more intense. Roland, unable to gain the upper hand, became increasingly impatient, her moves becoming wide and reckless, desperate only to defeat Russell as quickly as possible. Yet Russell remained as unhurried as before, as if he had encased himself in a turtle shell, blocking when he could, dodging when he couldn't, and never rashly counterattacking against Roland. However, when an opportunity presented itself, he would strike with a sword thrust, throwing Roland into disarray. 100 rounds passed. Roland was panting for breath, and Russell was also in a bad way, his battle chi nearly exhausted. It was at this time that Roland swung her red sword, attempting to increase her strength to destroy Russell's resistance. But her battle chi was somewhat insufficient, causing her footwork to become slightly disordered. A glint flashed in Russell's eyes as he finally caught the lethal opportunity he had been desperately searching for. No longer passively defensive, he thrust his green ceramic sword forward in the standard technique, honed like every knight's morning training. The opportunity was fleeting, but in that brief instant, the green ceramic sword had already broken through Roland's offense. Before Roland's red sword could descend, it precisely pointed at her chest. Without holding back, Russell gripped the sword with both hands and thrust forward fiercely, the green ceramic sword piercing Roland's battle attire and pressing against the soft armor beneath. Unable to pierce through the soft armor, the sheer force of the blow hit Roland like lightning, causing her body to go limp, her technique to utterly scatter, and then she fell on her backside onto the grass. Sheathing the sword, bowing respectfully, Russell struggled to calm the turmoil in his chest and smiled lightly. "Sister, thank you for the match. I lost." Roland had a hard time accepting that her little brother she used to bully had bested her. Picking up the red sword that had fallen beside her, Roland was ready to fight again. "I don't believe it. Let's go another round." Cooper walked over and held her back. "It's enough, Roland. It's just a bout between siblings. Go change your clothes. Grandmother will be here soon." Though Roland was still not convinced, she didn't persist and simply glared at Russell, shouting, "I'll be staying at Fluorescent Castle for a few days. Russell, we shall duel again." Russell grinned. "I'm not very fond of competing against losers." Roland was about to pass out with anger. If Cooper hadn't pulled her away, she might have fought Russell on the spot. Baron Roman stepped forward. "Cooper, take Roland to change her clothes." "Yes, sir-in-law." Having sent away a disgruntled Roland, Baron Roman looked at Russell with satisfaction and said, "You did very well. It seems that getting you accustomed to the life of a lord in advance has been beneficial. You're much more composed than before. Keep up the good work." "Yes, father." Roland, who watched the fight from the side, also came over and clapped his hands, smiling at Russell. "Not bad, kid. You made me itch to join in." Charles squeezed through and quietly gave a thumbs up. "Sir is mighty." "Russell, you're getting better and better." Dave Goldencap also came over laughing and praised. Thank you. The sibling duel, not a life-or-death battle, couldn't prove much, but winning always lifts the spirits. Chirp! On top of a distant tower, Roast the Clay Dragon seemed to be watching and let out an ambiguous cry. Russell looked up at Mr. Ross and always felt that the Clay Dragon was mocking him. However, since Mr. Ross didn't come looking for trouble, Russell had no intention of provoking him. He politely acknowledged the compliments from those around him and went to change his clothes as well. After changing, without lingering for idle chit-chat, the castle bell had already started to ring. Lady Ingrid had arrived. Escorting the elderly lady were her Uncle Rozan's family, Mrs. Clara, and her first cousins Royal and Royer. A lengthy series of greetings ensued. Everyone escorted today's birthday celebrant into the great hall of the castle. All the little sparklers are gathered. "This pleases me more than the holidays," Lady Ingrid said, beaming with joy. Her favorite sight was the fluorescent fungi family thriving and bustling. But there were also regrets. She looked around the crowd and sighed. Roby didn't come again? How many years has it been since she last came back? Roby was Russell's aunt, married to Baron Gold Davis Goldencap. Baron Roman comforted her. "My sister has always been frail and cannot stand the cold. This journey through ice and snow, she couldn't make it, as you know. If she can't come back, you must go and visit her more often." "Don't worry, I will." On the other hand, Russell was held up by his Uncle Rozan. The two of them chatted for a while, mainly about the duties of a lord's vassal. "You've managed to hunt snow ghosts, and Eric has been promoted to Phantom Beast Knight, which is very good. Finally, someone can share my burden." Rozan had a similar facial profile to Baron Roman, but appeared far more ordinary, the type that wouldn't stand out in a crowd. "I'm still learning, Uncle." "Then learn from your uncle. In the future, you'll need to take on the work of interacting with people all over the territory." "I understand. There's one more thing. Royal has cultivated a cheese seed, and I plan to send him to be a Knight Squire. So I wanted to ask you, if you're thinking of taking on Knight Squires, I hope to send Royal to you." Russell was surprised, but quickly shook his head. "My battle chi cultivation has just begun. I haven't considered taking on Knight Squires yet." Rozan was not surprised and said, "All right, I'll ask around." A knight attendant is a subordinate to the lord, essentially a servant, required to fight for the knightly lord, and also to attend to the lord's needs for clothing and food on the battlefield. They help knights maintain their equipment, help them put on and take off armor, carry items for them, cook, and even keep watch at night. Of course, as a reward, all of the attendants' expenses are provided by the knight. Their meals, resources for cultivation, and all expenses for future weddings and funerals are all signed for by the knight. But squires are different. Squires are more like apprentices, following a formal knight, cultivating battle chi, learning combat, and even learning how to manage a territory. So, squires are usually children of nobility. Nobles send their children to another noble family to serve as squires, learning how to become a qualified knight. Of course, those willing to send their children to be squires are generally minor nobles, like the Lord Knight rose on. As for the major nobles, such as earls and barons, they would hire a family tutor to teach their children. Russell had previously followed Baron Roman's hired great knight Eric, studying at home without ever being a squire in another's house. "Russell, what are you doing? It's time to give your gift to grandmother," Roland called out from the sofa. As Russell walked over, she eyed him with ill intent and said, "You're not going to fob her off with a pot of flowers again this year, are you?" Lady Ingrid joked with amusement. "Year after year, just a pot of flowers. You little rascals have forgotten you're from the mushroom family, insisting on emulating the flower family. Even gifting me, your old grandmother, a pot of mushrooms would be nice. Glowing mushrooms are a type of mushroom, while prolonged rain blossom is a kind of flower." Lady Merrill smiled faintly. "Mushrooms are delicious, flowers are beautiful, and mother, you don't lack mushrooms to eat. Sending some flowers to decorate the courtyard, seeing a sea of colorful flowers every day, wouldn't that lift your spirits even more?" Lady Ingrid shrugged her shoulders and laughed. "Flowers are like those insubstantial, flashy words. I guess I'm past the age of liking to hear flattery. Flattery must not be accepted as truth, but flowers can be seen and smelled." The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law chatted merrily. Roland, somewhat impatient, interrupted. "Grandmother, mother, let's take the gift first. As your eldest granddaughter, this year Cooper and I have prepared a birthday gift for you, which I'm sure you will love." Her personal maid brought forward a very elegant lady's hat, predominantly black, with a brim that could rival that of sun hat. But on the very top of the hat, there was a band of multicolored feathers that shimmered and shone, very eye-catching. "Wow, look at what my beloved Roland has brought me." Lady Ingrid immediately fell in love with the hat. Roland said with a smile, "The feathers on this hat come from the tail of a fantasy beast, the colorful phoenix. They change colors in the sunlight. Grandmother, please try it on. It makes you look 10 years younger instantly." Following that, Big Brother Roland gave a string of gemstone bracelet. It looked quite ordinary, but Roland's subsequent words made it sparkle. This was a gift especially requested from Princess Anxia, who also sent her birthday blessings to you, grandmother, wishing you health and longevity. The Great Dragon's Gaze. Lady Ingrid took the gemstone bracelet with both hands. Her voice suddenly choked. "Does Princess Anxia still remember this old woman?" Princess Anxia was the mother of the current Duke of the Shadowflame Grand Duchy, a woman of unparalleled status. "Of course, Princess Anxia remembers you," Roland said. "She also said that whenever you have time, you can visit Red Castle, claiming it has been many years since you've been there and many noble ladies there miss you." Lady Ingrid said with a trembling voice, "Yes, it's been so many years since I've been to Red Castle. Ever since your grandfather followed the former duke to his rest, I've been living here in Glowing Valley a bewildered life." "Mother, what are you saying? Even though father is no longer with us, you still have us, Rozan, Roby, and a younger generation like Roland and Royal to keep you company," Baron Roman hurried to comfort. As he spoke, he gave Lola a look. Lola immediately pounced forward. "Grandmother, Lola also has a gift for you. This is a scarf that Lola knitted by hand for you. Please try it on." With Lola's interruption, Lady Ingrid no longer dwelled on her late husband and happily accepted the gift. Roland looked at Russell, who had yet to present his gift, and loudly reminded him again, "Russell, what are you waiting for? Don't even think about getting away with a pot of flowers this time." Having lost the duel had been gnawing at her, and she just wanted to squeeze Russell, to make Russell embarrass himself. Russell smiled calmly, walked up to the old lady, and pulled out the gift he had prepared. "Grandmother, I have already celebrated my coming of age and been granted my own domain. I'm not a child anymore. So, I have carefully prepared this year's gift for you. 2 single-vision lenses lay in the palm of his hand, made from clear crystal, set into a slender and exquisite metal frame. One side could rest on the ears, the other on the bridge of the nose. There was also a fine chain for hanging. "What is this?" Lady Ingrid asked, clueless, and she was not the only one. Everyone present was unfamiliar with single-vision reading glasses. "What on earth are these 2 round mirrors, Russell?" Roland raised an eyebrow. "Are they some kind of jeweled accessory? The design is so bizarre." "These are called reading glasses," Russell explained casually. Then he said to the old lady, "Grandmother, please try on this pair of low-powered reading glasses first, like this," as he demonstrated and had someone bring a book. Lady Ingrid, somewhat puzzled, still followed Russell's guidance and put on the single-vision reading glasses, then began flipping through the book Russell handed her. At that look, she exclaimed, "Oh, great dragon! How amazing!" Surprised, she looked up at everyone. "The words in the book have become clear. For several years now, I haven't been able to see the words and letters clearly and needed a servant to read them out. Now I can see them by myself. It's amazing." "That's great to hear, grandmother. Now please try on this pair of single-vision reading glasses and see which pair suits you better," Russell said. "Good, good." Lady Ingrid was overjoyed, unable to let go of the single-vision reading glasses Russell had given her. After some testing, the pair with lower magnification suited her better. The higher-powered ones made things clearer, but they made her a little dizzy. "When I save up enough money, I'll get you several pairs of these glasses with different strengths, and then we'll find the perfect pair for you," Russell said with a smile. "By the great dragon's gaze, you really are my good grandson. Russell, you little mischief maker, the best gift I received this year is this, what is it called again?" "Reading glasses." "Right, these reading glasses." Lady Ingrid was ecstatic. Roland, feeling somewhat eclipsed, said, "Grandmother, give me a pair to see. Are these reading glasses really so magical?" The reading glasses were quickly passed around, and everyone tried them out. But aside from Lady Ingrid, no one else suffered from presbyopia, so naturally, they couldn't perceive the magic of the reading glasses. They were, however, amazed at how they magnified things when looking through them. "Carter, come here," Lady Ingrid called over Carter, the old butler, seeing that the others didn't recognize the value of the glasses, and passed him the stronger pair of reading glasses. "Haven't you also been struggling to see clearly? Come, try out Russell's invention." After putting them on and looking at the book, Carter immediately let out the same exclamation as Lady Ingrid. "By the great dragon's gaze, this is marvelous. Wonderful, isn't it? This is Russell's filial piety and also a blessing for us, the elderly," said Lady Ingrid cheerfully. "By the great dragon's gaze and the light's blessing, I must write to the scholars of Redcastle." Russell could be selected as a scholar just on a merit of these reading glasses. Grand Duke Inyan's Palace, also known as Redcastle. It bestows the status of a learned scholar upon those who make significant discoveries in battle-chi cultivation, significant innovations in magic power creations, substantial contributions to the inheritance of knowledge, and major inventions for daily life, highlighting their glory. In terms of social status, a learned scholar is roughly equivalent to a lord in the noble hierarchy, only without a fief. However, Redcastle offers them an annual stipend, and the various lords compete to hire learned scholars to serve as officials in their territories. It could be said that being a learned scholar is a pass to high society. But is a pair of reading glasses sufficient to obtain the status of a learned scholar? Russell didn't care about this. For one, he didn't need the status of a learned scholar to access high society, since he himself was already part of it. Secondly, the evaluation of a learned scholar was but a casual remark of the Shadowflame family living in Redcastle. Even if he hadn't invented reading glasses, a letter from Lady Ingrid could still possibly result in Princess Ansha granting Russell the status of a learned scholar. This could be seen as courting Baron Roman. Of course, the third reason why Russell didn't care was that if he could invent reading glasses, naturally he could also invent glasses for myopia, as well as telescopes, microscopes, and so on, piled together. If these couldn't earn him the status of a learned scholar, then it would mean there's something wrong with the minds of those at Red Castle. It's merely an imperfect pair of single-vision reading glasses, grandmother. I have a better plan, one that would design glasses more suitable for you, Russell said with a smile. My clever little will-o'-the-wisp. Your filial piety is as visible as a great dragon. Lady Ingrid embraced Russell tightly. Grandmother is content with a single pair, but if you really want to make a better one, let grandmother sponsor you. You shouldn't bear the cost alone anymore. She laughed and said to the surrounding lords and ladies, Russell has just been granted a fief, and he hasn't even reaped his first harvest, so we can't let him starve. Reading glasses are an excellent invention, my lady, and your sponsorship of Russell for improving them will become a delightful tale. Indeed, you have a keen eye for talent, having discovered a young learned scholar. Perhaps you could even pull some sponsorship from Red Castle. A toast to the Fluorescent Fungi family. The visiting lords and their wives all extolled the wisdom of the old lady's decision, making the scene even more lively. I never realized you had such a skill, Roland, his elder brother, said with a satisfied smile, patting Russell on the shoulder. I hope you truly earn the title of a learned scholar. Our family has never had such an honor before. I'll do my best, said Russell with a nonchalant smile. Roland squinted her eyes, staring intently at Russell until he felt a little uneasy. Then she switched to a smiling face. You're worthy of being Roland's brother. Is that so? Russell tilted his head, non-committal to the compliment. Subsequently, the living room buzzed with talk of the reading glasses, primarily to lavish praise upon Lady Ingrid and incidentally upon Russell. Only Baron Roman again expressed his heartfelt praise for Russell. This second son, who seemed a bit of a weakling on normal days and not much was expected of him, had, after earning his fief, seemingly caught the eye of a great dragon. His fortune had increased dramatically, finding the birch borer and acquiring the title of Phantom Beast Knight. His cultivation was also catching up, able to defeat Roland, who was more talented. And now he even had the prospect of gaining the status of a learned scholar, clearly possessing extraordinary wisdom. Keep working hard, Baron Roman advised. He now believed that Russell would certainly become a qualified lord, tasked with guarding the southern gate of Glowing Valley. At the same time, he could also smoothly take over from Rozon, tirelessly socializing on behalf of the Fluorescent Fungi family. Russell smiled slightly. I will, father. The luncheon was quite grand. An array of exquisite dishes streamed in one after another, with servants bustling to and fro. Laughter and joyful conversation filled the air, yet Russell was seriously focused on preparing his meal. Whether the food suited his taste was secondary. Nutrition was his primary concern, especially as he was currently at the peak of increasing his battle chi. Therefore, he specifically chose to eat the primordial meats. It would be great to eat primordial meat every day. Feeling the warm current spreading in his stomach, transforming into fine battle chi in his limbs and bones, and gathering into the main meridian, Russell couldn't help but rejoice. This feast would save him a whole half a day of arduous cultivation. And the so-called primordial meat referred to the meat of bred primordial beasts. Between ordinary wild beasts and powerful fantasy beasts, there exists a special class of bred primordial beasts. These are species of livestock, poultry, fish, and shrimp meticulously selected by humans, having the ability to subtly cultivate magic power, naturally imbued within their flesh. Eating this kind of primordial meat not only helps ordinary people live longer and healthier, but also helps knights strengthen their battle chi. Fluorescent Castle had bred 3 types of primordial beasts: short fleece rabbits, long-legged ducks, and brown dairy cows. Russell had no plans to introduce them for the time being. The reason was simple. Breeding primordial beasts required a large amount of fodder to cultivate magic power, which much costlier than rearing ordinary livestock. However, as he ate the primordial meat, it suddenly occurred to him, the golden black sow I bought, even if the fantasy beast baby didn't gestate, I think the piglet's quality should not be bad. If I rear them with care, might I breed a new variety of primordial beast? It was worth a try. With this thought, Russell's appetite improved further. After eating and drinking his fill, and enjoying some afternoon tea, beautiful music resonated throughout the castle. The dance floor opened, and everyone young and old gathered together joyfully. Lords from afar brought their families with them, and the local lords naturally brought theirs too, so the dance floor was not lacking in handsome men and beautiful women. Russell was not interested in social dancing, neither as his previous self, nor as he was now. He poured himself a glass of champagne that more resembled a soft drink, and then took a seat at the edge of the dance floor, silently appreciating the dancers. Not only did the Baron and his wife take to the floor personally, but even Lady Ingrid was invited to dance by Lord Uteras of Red Falcon Manor. "Lord Russell, may I have the honor of dancing with you?" While Russell was idly staring at the ceiling, bored, a noble young lady approached and invited him. She wore a light pink figure-hugging long gown that nicely showcased her lovely figure. Her ivory wide-brimmed hat set off her fair skin. A few small freckles dotted beneath her eyelids, complementing the dimple that appeared when she smiled. Russell looked over and naturally recognized who it was. The daughter of Baron Marcus, Melina, was one of the most beautiful young noblewomen in all of Glowing Valley. Even through Russell's previous life's well-experienced eyes, Melina would score a solid 75. Furthermore, Baron Marcus was Baron Roman's most capable assistant and vassal, and the only high-ranking mythical beast knight in the entire domain besides the Baron himself. With such a family background, Melina had countless suitors in Glowing Valley and even more so from other territories. "The honor is mine," Russell said, smiling as he got up, took Melina's hand, and walked with her into the dance floor. "I'm sorry, I'm still trying to remember the steps from the last time I danced," Russell said, his face showing not the slightest bit of embarrassment. Melly asked with a light chuckle, "Do you rarely dance with ladies? It seems that I seldom see you at the balls held by Fluorescent Castle." "Dancing only disrupts my training," Russell replied. "As you know, I don't have much talent when it comes to cultivating my skills. But you've successfully unleashed your battle chi, haven't you? You're destined to become a phantom beast knight in the future. Who knows what the future holds? I only care to make the best of the present." "Indeed, making the best of the present matters, and the great dragon watches over the rest, especially over a hard-working knight like yourself," Melly said with a smile, her eyes shining brightly. There was no denying that Melly had a way with words, and just a few sentences were enough to coax a smile from Russell's lips. But at that moment, Russell was thinking about the golden black sow back home that was due to give birth. It was uncertain whether it would produce a litter of piglets that could be bred into a new primordial bee species. If successful, the golden black would become the specialty of his estate. Golden black pork is commonplace. This is primordial meat, not the same at all. Maybe the new breed should be called dark black pig? The golden black pig is the Blackwaist Serpent Manor's pork specialty. Has anyone ever told you that it's very ungentlemanly to be distracted while dancing with a lady? Melly's voice pulled Russell, who was still concerned about his sow at home, back to the ballroom. With an awkward and perfunctory laugh, Russell replied, "I just thought of something interesting. Would you like to hear about it?" "Why not? I bought a golden black sow in town the day before yesterday. Did you know, under the watch of the Great Dragon, there's a wisp of magic power coursing through this golden black sow's belly?" "Ah, you mean it's carrying a fantasy beast baby?" Melly's eyes lit up with intense curiosity as she looked at Russell. "Indeed, but the aura is too weak, and it's highly likely to miscarry." "Oh, that's such a shame. Is there anything that can be done to help?" "There is, unless Mr. Ross could assist, but we've had a disagreement, so obviously that's not an option. Moreover, it would consume too much of Mr. Ross's essence, and my father would never agree. They believe in solving the estate's problems within the estate." Melly frowned. "So we just let the fantasy beast baby miscarry? And that doesn't sound very fun to me." "It's not about the fun of the situation. It's about my idea," Russell said. "I was thinking, even if the fantasy beast baby miscarries, this piglet is extraordinary. Perhaps I can try to raise it into a new breed of primordial beast." "Right?" Melly's eyes sparkled again. "If it works, Weow Snake Manor will have a new specialty." "Exactly, it's worth a try." "Definitely. That's why it's interesting. said Russell, pleased that his plan was well received. A bit absent-minded yet filled with anticipation, Melly asked, I've never been to Wu Yao Snake Manor. Russell, could I come to see the piglet? Sure, he replied. Maybe I could take a tour around Wu Yao Snake Manor. If you really come, I'll have Mr. Charles show you around the manor. What about you? Me? Russell thought about it. There are too many things to take care of in the territory, and I need to practice. I can't spare the time. Don't you need to relax occasionally? This is me relaxing. Before the words had died away, a dance had ended, and the men and women fluttering about the dance floor drifted apart, each making their way to the rest area to sip some tea. Russell and Melina separated as well. When the next dance began, Melina looked at him, but Russell, head lowered, was too busy with his tea and pastries to consider taking to the dance floor again. Only one dance, and then you're done? Lady Merrill, his mother, approached from somewhere with a glass of red wine in her hand. I don't like dancing. Then how will you take on the responsibilities of your Uncle Rozon in the future? Lady Merrill looked gently at her son and could see the shadow of his father and brother in his face. The Rainflower family was known for its attractive men and women, a trait that had carried on in Russell. Uncle Rozon could carry on for decades. By then I doubt anyone would want to dance with me if I wanted to enter the dance floor. That will not happen to my son. Your maternal grandfather is over 70 and still tremendously popular in the dance hall, and your handsomeness is no less than that of your grandfather and your uncle. But grandfather is an earl, sir, and your handsome, dashing son is but a small-time lord. Although I know you're making a joke, it sounds like my son is complaining about his fate, Lady Merrill said with a smile. Russell smiled apologetically. Sorry, Mother. I didn't mean to complain. Maybe I used to, but now I feel good, especially after going to the manor. I feel I'm on the right, optimistic path. In memory, his predecessor indeed resented the heavens and others, complaining about his lack of talent, lamenting that he was just a second son in the family. But he wouldn't, because he had a great dragon. What need was there for a bicycle? I'm proud of you, Russell, Lady Merrill said, reaching out to smooth a strand of his pale, golden hair from his forehead. Russell smiled. He rather liked the atmosphere of the Fluorescent Fungi family, especially his parents' attitude, loving but not interfering. The next moment, Lady Merrill inquired, Melina is a nice girl, albeit 2 years your senior, and it's clear that she's interested in you. Russell's smile froze on his face, just as he was thinking how comfortable it was for the parents not to interfere in their children's lives. He suddenly found himself being urged to marry. Mother, I've just come of age. Exactly, you're of age now. It's time to think about the next stage of your life, Lady Merrill said matter-of-factly. When you go and live independently on the manor, you'll need a lady to take care of your daily needs, won't you? All Russell could do was to give a non-committal response. Let's wait a bit longer. You can wait, but Melina can't. She's already 18. Wait a bit longer, and she'll become an old maid. Why does she have to wait for me? Oh, my silly son, you won't find many girls better than Melina in Glowing Valley. If you don't want her, she'll soon be snatched up by someone else. Your father and I have hinted at Marcus several times to steady him down and keep him from letting Melina socialize too early. Marcus was a vassal of Baron Roman, but even as lord, he couldn't arbitrarily interfere with the marriages of his vassal's children. Russell shook his head and laughed. Mother, you and father don't need to worry too much about me. I have a clear understanding and plan for my future. Trust me. What he wanted now was to properly manage the manor and to earnestly cultivate his battle chi. Looking into Russell's eyes, Lady Merrill chuckled after a moment. Then go and he had to let Melina know sooner rather than later that he was a man she couldn't have. She could settle for second best and look for someone else. I saw Melina leave the castle, heartbroken and dejected, while Baron Marcus vowed to find an opportunity to give you a good thrashing, Roland said to Russell, who was taking a stroll in the castle after the ball, teasing him as always. Why would he hit me? Russell frowned. Because you've hurt his precious daughter's heart, my foolish brother. Who told you to have a face that naturally attracts women? Well, if being handsome is a crime, I am indeed unforgivable. At his words, Roland rolled her eyes. When did you become so thick-skinned? It seems a lot has happened in the castle during the half year I was away. Maybe it's because I defeated my sister, which incredibly boosted my confidence. You a duel. Haha, just kidding. Don't think that just because you luckily defeated me once, you really won. I was careless this time, but I'll take the next duel seriously. Roland glared at Russell fiercely. The duel that morning had been a major setback in her life. Russell shrugged his shoulders, not responding, as he didn't want to duel with Roland. It wasn't that he was afraid of losing, it simply didn't matter. Winning wasn't anything to brag about since. After all, Roland was only a woman. Losing, on the other hand, would surely have him ridiculed by Roland for a whole year. He would much rather return to Wu Snake Manor and spar with his knight attendants. The knight attendants, in terms of both battle chi and martial skills, were not like Roland, who was all show. They were armed knights who had truly battled snow ghosts on the snowfields, tested in life-and-death situations. Luckily, Roland did not insist on dragging Russell to a duel right then. Perhaps she wasn't confident she could turn the tables. She glanced at Russell and said, "I didn't make it back for your coming-of-age ceremony, and the ice period blocked the way, so I didn't give you a gift. It's okay." "No, it's not okay, since I'm your sister." Roland called for a personal maid and instructed her to retrieve a gift from her room. "This is to make up for your gift." "Thank you," Russell said, accepting and unwrapping it. Inside was a jade box, and the next moment, Russell realized something and looked up at Roland in surprise. Roland had a triumphant smile on her lips. "Open it and see." Actually, Russell didn't need to open it to guess that inside was a spirit insect, because this jade box was a custom case designed to hold such creatures. He lifted the lid of the box. Indeed, inside was a chubby spirit insect, a Yuguangsun mushroom bug, to be precise, with a greenish luster on its body. The dowry our father and mother gave me included a Yuguangsun mushroom bug. I deliberately did not bond with it, but preserved it instead. It's perfect as a coming-of-age gift for you. Roland leaned against the wall, her posture far from ladylike. But at this moment, Russell felt a profound sense of care from her. Taking a deep breath, Russell closed the jade box. "Sister, this gift is too valuable. The mushroom bug is a strategic resource, and you need it more than I do. You gave me pearls, and I didn't think they were too valuable to accept. I'm giving you a mushroom bug, so why are you refusing? Pearls indeed aren't as valuable as a mushroom bug. Enough with the talk, just accept it. Or are you worried that my dowry will be too meager and my future husband will look down on me?" Roland clenched her fist. "I'd like to see him try. He wouldn't dare even if I gave him 2 extra guts. Stop your fussing, you." "All right." Russell wasn't one to make a fuss. "The gift might be pricey, but aren't you worried about not being able to return the favor in the future?" "All right, go on with your business then, brother. I'm heading back to sleep." Getting enough rest is the secret to maintaining good skin. And you, how come your skin is so flawless without any care? It's simply unfair. Roland impatiently shooed Russell away. Seeing Russell's handsome face and smooth skin annoyed her. After the birthday party of Lady Ingrid had concluded, aside from Roland and her husband who stayed a few more days in the Fluorescent Castle, everyone else gradually left. Russell did the same, not lingering long. The next morning, he took with him the coming-of-age gift his sister Roland had fixed up for him, a Yuguangsun mushroom bug, along with 100 gold coins from his grandmother's subsidy for the Old Spectacles Improvement Research Project, and returned to his own territory, Wu Snake Manor. "Miss Roland is truly generous, sir." Throughout the journey, Charles couldn't stop expressing his admiration. The value of a mushroom bug was immeasurable. After all, it was a strategic-level resource. Whether it was a magic elixir or magical materials, these were the precious resources only nobility could wield, crucial for battle chi cultivation and the stability of rule. "Yes," Russell said, somewhat absent-minded. In the memories of his predecessor, his elder brother Roland seemed more selfish and hypocritical, something Russell had also felt. However, the predecessor had also deemed Roland as overbearing and unreasonable, and quite mean to him, but Russell only experienced half of that. She was indeed overbearing and unreasonable, but quite kind to him. Thinking of the mushroom bug and the jade box in his arms, he couldn't help but inwardly reflect. Sister Roland, truly wonderful. Upon returning to Yao Snake Manor, Knight Attendant James, who had been left in charge of watching the golden black sow, came forward to report, "Sir, the golden black sow has finished farrowing, but unfortunately, there are no fantasy beast babies." This news was disappointing, but not unexpected. "Oh, the great dragon of the Duke's family. Why couldn't you have looked our way just once more?" Charles sighed. Eric remained silent, but as he glanced at Kevin the gold and silver wolfhound following by his side, he felt even luckier. He secretly praised Russell in his heart. Had it not been for Russell's grace, how could he have realized the dream of becoming a phantom beast knight? He had worked in the Fluorescent Castle for many years without ever having such an opportunity. "Which little piglet is the one that miscarried its magic power?" Russell asked. "This one, the fattest one, sir," James replied. "Bring it over here." Immediately, James carried over a plump black piglet, and the golden black sow, which had been nursing, lifted her head momentarily before settling down again. With a mere tilt of her head, she could reach the delicious pig feed and did not care at all that a piglet had been taken away. Russell extended his hand and carefully sensed the aura of the little piglet. Remnants of primordial power aura lingered, but they were dissipating. He said to Eric, "Feel it for yourself. Doesn't it mean a complete failure, unable to transform into a fantasy beast baby anymore?" Eric felt the piglet a couple of times, then shook his head. "The primordial power is fading, and it's irreversible." Several knight attendants all exhaled a sigh. If indeed a fantasy beast baby had been born, in the future it was very likely that the next Phantom Beast Knight would be promoted from among the four of them. They didn't mind the unpleasant sound of being called pig knights. As long as they could get promoted, they were willing even if called pig shit knights. Russell nodded understandingly and then ordered, "James, go call Hans over and have him arrange for a serf family to raise pigs, especially this little piglet, which should be reared separately with the best pig feed." "Sir, are you thinking?" Charles quickly grasped Russell's intention. "Exactly. Wow. There really might be a chance if we can breed a new variety of primordial beast. The domain will have another specialty." Given that Yao Snake Manor currently had no more forests to convert into new fluorescent fungus magic medicine fields, the only option was to let the influence of the two fungi overlap, thereby increasing the production speed and scale of the glowing mushrooms in the birch forest. "We need to promptly establish a new birch forest across the river." Russell issued the highest directive. Charles, Hans, and others were following right beside him, nodding hurriedly, indicating that everything was proceeding in an orderly fashion. Indeed, Russell could see across the river, where a large group of serfs, under the leadership of their overseer, was meticulously planting cut birch branches into the riverbank. Birch trees can be grown from seeds or propagated from branch cuttings. These branch cuttings have been personally inspected by Phantom Beast Knight Eric, selected for their ability to generate magic power. After the birch trees were impregnated with the fungus, the influence of the fungus was constantly at work, gradually transforming the birch forest by infecting ordinary trees with magic power, enabling them to draw magic power from the earth and thus nourish the wood itself. However, many birch trees had grown for years, and the infection would take a long time, possibly 10 to 20 years to fully mature. But once the cut branches endowed with magic power took root and sprouted, they would quickly grow into magic-infused birch trees, bypassing the need for the infection process. By the time Russell made his way to the other side of the river, the serfs stopped their work and bowed deeply at a 90-degree angle upon seeing Russell and his entourage. Russell had abolished the ritual of serfs kneeling whenever they met their lord, changing it to a simple, deep bow when they saw the lord for the first time each day. On the second and subsequent encounters, even a bow was not necessary. Only a nod with a gaze of respect would suffice. It was a way to maintain the lord's authority without interrupting the normal course of work. For him, kneeling and kowtowing, such base practices were unnecessary to demonstrate his status as a lord. His status derived from the fluorescent fungi family and the fighting power brought by his fighting chi cultivation. "Rudy, the overseer of magic medicine Ton, greets you, sir," said the overseer Rudy, with a red nose, bowing enthusiastically. "Rudy, keep up the good work, and report to me immediately if there's any situation in magic medicine Ton," Russell said. "Yes, sir," Rudy replied. Russell murmured. Russell looked at the hard-working serfs and sincerely smiled. This vast land with all its crops, these people working for him, even these people themselves were his private property. Life as a lord of the manor might be mundane and less colorful than the life on earth, but it was rich in spiritual fulfillment. A vast expanse of land for him to do as he pleased. "Let's go, Mr. Charles. Let's see how the windmill mill is coming along," Russell said, once again bursting with enthusiasm as he made his way up to the mill on the hillside. Watching the lord and the knights stride away, the serfs who were quietly planting trees gradually became bolder and began to whisper among themselves. "The sir is so diligent. Almost every day we see him inspecting his domain," one of them said. The overseer's serf laughed. "The sir is young and strong, of course. He must inspect the domain every day to prevent you old fellows from slacking off." Not afraid of the overseer, who is also a serf, they jibed back. "You're no slouch at slacking off yourself. It's when the ton leader isn't around that you're the first to laze about. If you old coots say one more word, I'll whip you with this. Come on, hit me." "Enough, all of you, stop the ruckus," an old and prudent serf advised. It was not easy to wait for such a generous and kind master. "If we don't farm well and anger the Lord, we'll have to return to our hard lives in the past." The serf steward agreed with a nod. "Indeed, a lord willing to provide meals when we serfs labor. That's truly our good fortune. And now we have the chance to plant magic potions. Better days are yet to come. The great dragon is watching over us. May the light bless, and hope our Lord lives 100 years, forever in charge of our manor." The desires of the serfs were always so simple. At the same time, Russell had arrived at the construction site of the windmill mill. The main structure, built up of stones, was essentially finished, but the mill's sails, as well as the rotating shaft and grinding plates inside, were still under construction. The stonemasons were outside, shaping the millstones. The millstones were enormous, carved from huge boulders extracted from curved Blade Mountain. Russell had limited knowledge and was not very clear about what kind of rock it was. In any case, the rock was extremely hard and wear-resistant. The stonemasons had to chisel many times just to smooth off a bit of the edges, and for just this pair of millstones, they would need to work on them for at least half a month. Inside the mill, carpenters were busy adjusting the timber. Worm gears, turbines, bearings, connecting rods. The windmill mill was much more complicated than Russell had thought. "Sir, you've come at just the right time." The chief carpenter of the windmill mill, who was also the chief designer, a serf technician from Fluorescent Castle. The term serf technician refers to any serf with a technical skill, with magic potion cultivation considered a skill, as is carpentry, greeted him. "What's the matter?" "We've done some on-site measurements, and it turns out that the wind speed around Alfalfa Hamlet might be a bit low on average. So we need to design an additional set of transmission shafts to get the millstones moving," the chief carpenter explained. "But adding an extra set of transmission shafts will demand too much from the timber. So these timbers can't be used, can they?" Russell frowned. "Not for the key parts. The strength of the wood is not enough." The chief carpenter took out a piece of draft paper with crudely drawn diagrams on it. "Sir, as you can see, these parts cannot be made of wood. They need to be replaced with metal ceramics." Russell glanced over it. The parts that required metal ceramics weren't numerous, but this would certainly exceed the budget. "I'm sorry, sir. We didn't anticipate this earlier. The wind power in Alfalfa Hamlet turns out to be a bit lacking." Charles quickly self-criticized, while simultaneously shifting the blame. "It's also because these carpenters and stonemasons were too coarse in their work. They built it to ensure that the windmill could turn, and now they say it can't." Lord Charles, we never said the windmill couldn't turn. It's just that the windmill's power would be a bit weak. To ensure normal operation, we'll need to add another transmission shaft," the chief carpenter interjected. "All right, Russell waved his hand dismissively. A trivial matter is not worth arguing about. Now you tell me, if we add this transmission shaft, will the windmill mill operate normally? Yes or no? Yes, sir. I guarantee it. Then, Mr. Charles, according to the chief carpenter's needs, go purchase metal ceramic parts from Fluorescent Castle, Russell decided. After making his decision, he then turned to the chief carpenter and said, once the parts are bought, if everything about the windmill mill is normal, then all is well. But if there are still problems with the design, I'll have to hold you accountable. And I'll be asking Fluorescent Castle what kind of technicians they've been nurturing. His tone was mild, but to the chief carpenter, it carried immense pressure. I assure you, sir, there won't be any more issues. Very well. I look forward to the good news about the completion of the windmill mill. After inspecting the windmill mill, he dispatched a night attendant to invite the lamp store's gem craftsman, who just happened to be brought over. Mondes sends his greetings to you, Lord Russell. The gem craftsman's legs were somewhat shaking, as he had been brought over on horseback, experiencing for the first time the bumpiness of sitting on a horse. Hello, Mondes, Russell said gently. Do you know why I've called you over? Please command me, Lord Russell. It's about the 2 pieces of clear crystal that I had you grind before. After they were made into single-vision reading glasses, my grandmother liked them very much. Ah, Lady Ingrid liked them? That is indeed my honor. Montes was very excited. But those 2 pairs of single-vision glasses inevitably had some discrepancies. So now I want to make glasses more suited to presbyopia, Russell said. I am very satisfied with your craftsmanship, so I plan to entrust you with the task of grinding the lenses. In fact, Russell would have preferred to recruit Mondes to work exclusively for him. He had ambitious plans to research glassmaking to produce more, richer, and more exquisite glassware. However, reality did not allow it. It was not a matter of funding or technical issues, but an energy problem. As everyone knows, metals and gems come from dragons, bipedal flying dragons, but in fact, energy also comes from bipedal flying dragons. The coal and oil that are burned are mineral products bred by bipedal flying dragons, which need to be transported from foreign lands to ensure supply to the glowing valley. Every year, Baron Roman cleared the snowfield trade routes to facilitate the transportation of large quantities of coal from foreign lands. Regrettably, the firing of clay into ceramics required a tremendous amount of coal. Therefore, Russell cannot expect to get any surplus coal, but without coal, how could he make glass? This was a deadlock. It was impossible to cut down all the trees in the territory and then burn them into charcoal. Unable to make glass on his own, he could only import substandard glass from foreign lands, with lots of impurities and bubbles, using this inferior glass to create the desired glass products. Not to mention the cost issue. The constraints of trade routes alone were enough to abort the plan. The most critical issue is patent protection. This world does not have patent protection. I toil away to create glasses, telescopes, microscopes, only for others to easily imitate. Only if I could make glass myself would I have the right to compete, he thought. So, unless he stumbled upon a bipedal flying dragon that could produce coal and the like, he had no plans to delve deeply into glass products. Inviting Mondes over for some extra money to help create a few pairs of reading glasses suitable for his grandmother, successfully settling the research funding would suffice. Buy more clear crystals, spend about 30 gold coins, and I should be able to make a suitable pair of reading glasses for my grandmother. As for the remaining 70 gold coins, let's consider it as my grandmother's sponsorship for the scientific cause, Russell thought. It must be said that Lady Ingrid was quite generous. With a wave of her hand, she provided 100 gold coins. This amount was equivalent to several years of crop production from Wu Yao Snake Manor, excluding magic potion. After Russell was in theft, the gold coins bestowed to him by Fluorescent Castle amounted to only 50, which already signified the extreme generosity of the Baron and his wife. A peasant family of 3 living as serfs might only need 10 silver coins for a year's worth of living expenses. In the Shadowflame Grand Duchy, 1 gold coin was fixed at a conversion to 100 silver coins, and 1 silver coin was fixed at conversion to 100 copper coins. Metals are born from dragons, so there's no need to worry about bad money driving out good money. The currency system had been running smoothly for thousands of years. In any case, Mondes gladly accepted Russell's commission and used the lamp store's spare time to craft new reading glasses for Russell. Once I have purchased enough white crystals, you will fashion them into rough lenses, and then accompany me to Great Wind Manor. There, we will personally measure and calibrate them before polishing them on the spot. Russell had everything arranged. A pair of reading glasses was simple, requiring no special technology, just the craftsmanship of a jeweler. As you wish, Lord Russell. Then it's settled. After sending Mondes away, by evening time, the manor's guest house welcomed an unexpected visitor. "Katie pays her respects to Sir," said the visitor, the elder sister among the cat sisters, still dressed in her usual black bodysuit. "There's no need for formality. Have a cup of hot tea first." Russell had been maintaining contact with the cat sisters, with Kevin the gold and silver wolfhound passing messages in between. However, as a fantasy beast, he couldn't convey overly complex information. After taking a sip of hot water, Katie reported, "Catherine and I have successfully joined Lone Wolf Lisbon's team." "Good. He hasn't grown suspicious, has he?" "No, that person has become oblivious, sir." Katie shook her head and continued, "His actions in Echo Water River Cavern have grown more and more audacious, even causing friction with the Wild Man Cave and resulting in a few fatalities." The Wild Man Cave was a cavern in Curved Blade Mountain inhabited by several hundred freemen. When the great dragon plans to destroy a man, it first drives him mad. Russell paraphrased a saying from Earth. "Yes," Katie agreed, then added, "There's more good news, sir. Lisbon's possession of a mushroom worm has been confirmed. It's true." "Oh, which mushroom worm?" "The bloodfong fungi." Bloodfong fungi? Russell had never heard of it. "Indeed, that's what Lisbon calls the mushrooms he grows. He crushes these bloodfong fungi and makes them into a blood-pasty salve called gum blood. After Catherine and I joined him, we received a share of this gum blood." Pausing for a moment, Katie said, "But I do not know where the bloodfong fungi are grown. It seems only Lisbon knows." Even the name bloodfong fungi slipped out from his lips by accident. Russell nodded. He was determined to obtain the bloodfong fungi and gum blood. After a moment's thought, he instructed, "Katie, you and Catherine continue to follow Lisbon. Draw him out as soon as possible. Of course, you sisters must also be careful and cautious. Once we've killed Lisbon and taken control of Echo Water River Cavern, you'll be free to move openly in the manor." "My sister and I are looking forward to that day all the time, sir." Katie smiled faintly, her eyes brimming with anticipation. "Aside from his recent trouble with the Wild Man Cave, has Lisbon taken any other actions?" Charles asked from his side. "Does he have any comments on how easily he Sir eliminated those snow ghosts? Or how does he regard Sir?" "It seems that Lisbon is deliberately ignoring Sir, but occasionally when I bring up Sir deliberately, I can see jealousy in Lisbon's eyes." "Jealous of Sir? That's quite normal." Charles laughed. "Sir is young and handsome, a dashing noble, while he is just a bloated old rat struggling in a cave, lucky to have gotten a mushroom worm by a momentary oversight of the great dragon, destined to return to Sir's hands sooner or later." Katie echoed, "That's indeed the case." Russell spoke with a calm smile. "While that is true, we still must take Lisbon seriously. Katie, I want your sisters plotting to be even more cautious. Compared to the small profits from Echo Water River Cavern, you sisters are more important to me." "Sir," Katie's eyes misted up. Even though she knew Russell was just saying flattering words, she was still deeply touched. After all, kind words warm for 3 winter months. The agricultural production of the manor didn't really need him, an outsider, to offer guidance, but that didn't stop Russell from exercising his initiative. After collection, manure can be used to fertilize fields. He stood by the window on the 2nd floor of the stone house, looking out at the small marketplace separated by a wall. "Mr. Charles, please urge Hans to build a latrine in the marketplace as soon as possible." The environment of the small marketplace was poor, primarily due to the serfs relieving themselves wherever they pleased. Russell had long wanted to address this issue. "Manure can fertilize?" "Sir, You must be mistaken. Charles raised an objection. Manure will burn the crops. Charles had personal experience with this. He had a run-down courtyard in town with a sour jujube tree, and every time he got drunk, he liked to urinate on the tree. Over time, the sour jujube tree was burned to death. Whether it's urine or feces, both can burn the crops. It's said that these contain toxins that can kill not only crops, but also flowers and trees, Charles confidently stated, with Eric nodding silently beside him. Russell was surprised. Do you all think that manure burns crops? Charles replied, Of course. Yes. Eric agreed in a muffled voice. Considering that Dragon Sleep Continent was a magical world, Russell was not certain his own knowledge was accurate. Therefore, he decided to determine the truth through experimentation. He then added another question. Before you use manure to fertilize fields, did you ever ferment it through composting? Composting? Fermentation? Charles was puzzled. I know about fermentation. It's needed for making wine, but can manure also ferment? What does it ferment into? Sir, where did you hear that manure can ferment? In an instant, Russell knew where the problem lay. The people here were well aware of the dangers of manure, but didn't know that after fermentation and composting, manure could become a natural fertilizer. Of course, whether it truly could be used as fertilizer post-composting still needed to be verified. Russell said, Never mind what fermentation is or how to compost for now. Mr. Charles, please have Hans build a latrine quickly, and then require all serfs coming to the marketplace to use the latrine for their needs. That, of course, as you wish. Charles didn't understand Russell's insistence, but agreed nevertheless. Additionally, every settlement must build latrines, and a regulation must be enacted that all serfs are forbidden from relieving themselves randomly. Urine goes in a bucket, feces in a pit, to facilitate the collection of manure. Russell thought for a moment. Policy alone clearly wasn't sufficient. On Earth, people from certain places still defecated and urinated outside their toilets in modern times, showing how difficult it was to change hygiene habits. Therefore, he added, Mr. Charles, write a notice immediately. From now on, the manor will purchase manure at the price of 1 copper coin per bucket of urine, 2 copper coins per bucket of feces, with no limit on quantity, including the manure of cows, sheep, and other livestock. Charles's eyes widened. Sir, you are. Don't worry. Build a compost heap and a manure lagoon on the leeward side of the manor's territory and send serfs to turn and aerate it regularly. After a few weeks or months, we'll use this batch of fermented manure to fertilize the fields and see the results. I'm somewhat lost with what you're saying, sir. You don't need to understand, just do as told. As you wish. Although Charles did not fully understand the significance of composting, he knew who paid his salary, so he quickly accepted the command. Remember to build the toilets on the leeward side. Russell pointed to a location outside the window. The stone house he was in was Charles's residence in the small marketplace, with 2 levels. Charles's family resided in town and were unwilling to come over, so there was only one cook-cum-maid living downstairs, responsible for cleaning, washing, and cooking. Next door to this stone house, there was another, somewhat larger stone house, which was the residence of the Eric family. Now both family tutors had moved out of the manor's guest house. All right, remember to build it a bit farther from the cinder path down the road. This street is too narrow. I might have to widen it in the future, Russell continued. Understood, sir. Very good. Building toilets, manure heaps, and cesspools, as well as purchasing manure from the serfs, may cost quite a bit of money. No problem. I have money, Russell said confidently with a smile. The research funds provided by his grandmother were sufficient to completely transform the estate. But I still have to say, sir, are you really going to spend money to buy manure from the serfs? Charles really couldn't fathom. With one command, the serfs would obediently offer up the manure they produce. There's no need to spend money. Even Eric chimed in. Everything in the estate belongs to the Lord, including the serfs and their manure. This undoubtedly reminded Russell. As the Lord, there was no reason to spend money buying manure. It was just like with the serfs raising chickens, ducks, and geese. If the Lord wanted to eat them, he could simply use tax collection as a pretext to make the serfs obediently deliver the poultry. Fundamentally, the poultry were the Lord's, and serfs were merely raising them on his behalf. It's the same with farming. Come harvest time, most of the yield went to the Lord, and serfs could only keep a portion for subsistence. Despite that, my dear teachers, I am a generous Lord who always hopes that the subjects can gain a little more. Russell chose not to tax the manure, so let's distribute it under the guise of sanitation fee to the serfs. Sanitation fee? Yes, if the serfs are clean and hygienic, as the Lord I am glad and think it is reasonable to give them a few copper coins to share that joy, he explained. That's indeed reasonable. Charles quickly spotted a blind spot. But this might mean that no one wants to use the toilets. The serfs will surely prefer to keep their manure at home to earn a bit of sanitation fee from you. Russell blinked, acknowledging the problem. Luckily, he was a lord amenable to reason. If a policy was flawed, it had to be corrected immediately. Let's just build one toilet in the small marketplace then. It's not necessary to build toilets in each hamlet, but I am planning to order a batch of barrels and pots from the Fluorescent Castle. He planned to sell the barrels and pots at a low cost to the serfs for use as urinals and fecal containers. Otherwise, the serfs would have no vessels for holding manure. Charles brown-nosed. Sir, you are very thoughtful. The serfs' houses truly lack additional containers for urine and feces. My ideas do not always work, so I need Mr. Charles and Mr. Eric to help me find and fix the gaps. Let's build the manor together, Russell said with a smile, conscious that a good leader needs his helpers, and besides, this was his first time being a lord. Don't underestimate an estate with just over 3,000 people. Unless one chooses to do nothing and let the manor develop and produce on its own, there are indeed plenty of things that need attention. Charles spoke earnestly. I will draw up a detailed set of regulations for the manor's hygiene, listing out issues like sanitation management, fertilizing fields with manure, and distributing sanitation fees, and then read them to the village chiefs and serfs overseers. That would be very good. Russell expressed his satisfaction. Charles, inside the stone house, loudly scolded until the voices of the several dozen village chiefs and serf overseers finally lowered. Hans, Sir Charles, please give your orders. Next, I will give you time to speak, but if anyone dares to talk outside of that time, punish him with 10 lashes immediately. Yes, Hans himself will keep an eye on these people. Hans quickly took a stance. The deterrent of 10 lashes was astonishing, so no sound was heard in the room thereafter except for breathing. Charles was pleased with this, so he continued speaking deliberately. The sanitation policy is as follows. The Lord is very dissatisfied with the filth and disarray at Weow Snake Manor. So for you, danger and opportunity come hand in hand. Everyone did not understand what danger and opportunity meant. Charles explained, the danger is if anyone urinates or defecates indiscriminately from now on and is caught, he will be fined 10 lashes. If one does not change despite repeated admonitions, not only will he be whipped, but the serf overseers and village chiefs will be whipped along with him. The exclamations were cut off midway, as the serf overseers quickly covered their mouths, fearing to receive lashes. After scaring them sufficiently, Charles continued to explain, as long as you do not urinate and defecate anywhere, you will not be whipped, and there are even benefits. The Lord is generous and compassionate, willing to reward those serfs who are hygienic. Anyone who is hygienic will get a reward. Save a bucket of urine, and you can receive a copper coin from the Lord as a reward. Save a bucket of feces, and you can receive 2 copper coins from the Lord as a reward. A piece of dark bread that is enough for a family of 3 to eat for a day in town is sold for no more than 1.5 copper coins. So this reward is quite substantial. The key is that these rewards are fully earned for free, and they are effective over the long term. Now, you may discuss freely. Charles finished announcing the sanitation policy, freeing up the room's public opinion. Sir Charles, is the Lord really willing to give us a cleaning fee? Hans said with gleaming eyes, eager to ask. Of course, the Lord's word is his bond. Sir, a copper coin for a bucket of urine, right? 2 copper coins for a bucket of feces, right? Can I also put the droppings from my home's chickens and ducks into the feces bucket? Asked the serf overseer with excitement, counting on his fingers. Charles replied, Of course, you can even go outside to pick up cow dung and sheep dung. Any kind of dung will do. That's great, the serf overseers exclaimed joyously. But sir, we only have 1 water bucket at home. Although feces can be air-dried, we surely cannot use our water bucket to collect urine, can we? Some serf overseers began to worry. Buckets were not cheap, and the cooper held high status here. Don't worry, the Lord has already considered this and will soon have a shipment of buckets and pots at the original price delivered. You only need to pay the cost price to purchase them. This is a welfare that the Lord is bestowing upon you. Really? That's wonderful. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. I'm already eager to go back and defecate. In the pot I'll buy. Hee, I've just let out a fart. Beat him to death. The room became noisy as the village chiefs and serf overseers enthusiastically discussed the policy for distributing cleaning fees. Once the people had made enough of a commotion, Charles continued, After you go back, make it clear to each serf household that there are rewards for collecting excrement, and indiscriminate urinating and defecating will result in lashes. Hans, you have another task. The Lord wants a toilet built at the small marketplace. Why build a toilet? Wondered Hans, perplexed. Sir Charles, for the sake of the cleaning fee, I'm not willing to go to the toilet. Of course, you can collect excrement at home, but toilets must be built. This is for future planning. The Lord has already invited a caravan to come sell goods at the small marketplace so that it's convenient for the manor's serfs to make purchases. After a pause, Charles continued to elaborate. In the future, every month when caravans come to Glowing Valley, the Lord will invite them to the small marketplace. Understand, after the warm season, caravans will come every month. So Russell also wanted to do business with the caravan, inviting them to the small market to sell their goods. Meantime, they could also purchase some produce from the estate. In going back and forth, the estate's economy was revitalized, rather than the current situation, where over 3,500 serfs revolved solely around the fields, without even a single craftsman among them. Lord Sir is truly kind-hearted. He treats us so well. A serf supervisor started choking up on the spot. The great dragon watches over Sir. Sir has the blood of the fluorescent fungi, family flowing in his veins. He can shine brightly in the dark. Praise Sir. The sounds of flattery were incessant, and under this atmosphere, Hans accepted the job of building the latrines. A latrine, after all, did not require the help of town craftsmen. The estate's serfs could build it themselves. The small market needs to be expanded, and the roads need to be widened as well, Charles said to Hans as he sent him out, advising, It's Sir's intention, through the construction of the windmill mill and latrines, to cultivate our own construction team on the estate. I'll do my best, Lord Charles. It's not about doing your best, it's a must. You must carefully select any serf who has a talent for building. Yes, Lord Charles, I will surely pull together a team of serf builders. Hans nodded gravely, feeling the weight of the responsibility. You don't need to feel troubled. The serf construction team is a good thing, Charles said. Lord Sir never makes the hungry serfs work, so every time the serfs work, Lord Sir will provide food. I believe they will come to like the construction team. Of course. But the lazy ones will be expelled and whipped. This is something you must enforce strictly. I will, Lord Charles. Lord Sir is kind, which is why he treats the serfs well. But you and I, as officials of the estate, have the duty to help Lord Sir manage the serfs, to ensure that the hard-working ones eat more bread and the lazy ones get whipped more. Charles patted Hans on the shoulder. Hans nodded hurriedly. Yes, just like that. After sending Hans and the serf supervisors away, Charles didn't immediately rush off to the manor's annex, but decided to kill some time at home. It wasn't mealtime yet, and showing up too early at Russell's might mean missing out on a free meal. Sir, will you be having lunch at home? Asked the cook-cum-maid as she came by, a lady in her 40s. No, make something for yourself. Of course, sir. The cook left, and Charles suddenly found himself bored in his room. wanted to read a newspaper or a novel, but there were none to be found in the room. Newspapers were only available at Fluorescent Castle, while his books were left back at his old home. Had I known, I should have brought a book from the Manor's annex. Russell likes reading, and his study is piled with lots of books, Charles thought. He simply moved a chair to the window and sat looking out at the distant fields. Compared to before, Russell now, he's more like a competent lord. The Russell of the past had been diligent, yet a bit self-effacing and introverted. However, after his battle chi blossomed, Russell became more extroverted and cheerful, especially more confident. What was most critical was that the great dragon had begun to take notice of Russell. Eric has already mixed in as a phantom beast knight. This is really... Charles couldn't help but feel an unexplained envy. He wasn't afraid of a brother living a hard life, but was afraid of a brother driving a luxury car. Initially, he and Eric were equal as family tutors, one in literature and the other in martial arts. But in a blink of an eye, Eric had become a phantom beast knight, far surpassing him in status. No, I must train even harder. What if Russell acquires another fantasy beast? Charles immediately stood up and began practicing his battle chi. But after a short time, he deflated, sigh. Neglected for too long, my meridians have stiffened, and there's no chance for me to become a great knight anymore. Forget about it. Shaking his head in self-consolation, he thought, I should just concentrate on following Russell, being a good official. If one day Russell makes great achievements, perhaps I can also become a lord with a title and revitalize the family legacy. Now that he was there, Russell felt it would be impolite not to ask him to stay for lunch. So he had no choice but to instruct Butler Morris to add a place setting for Charles. Mr. Charles, you needn't always come right on the dot. You should rest at home for a while. Coming over in the afternoon would be just as well, Russell said. Ha, laughed Charles with a shamelessly relaxed air. I just remembered there was something I needed to report, and it happened to coincide with this time. Who knew I would run into you, sir, enjoying your lunch? This must be the call of the black pearl wine. Faced with Charles's brazen shamelessness, what could Russell say? He could only express his helplessness and say, let's eat first. It was inevitable. Charles was his family tutor and naturally counted among his close subordinates. Moreover, Charles was probably the only person in the estate who could serve as an administrative officer, because Charles was literate and could manage all kinds of tax documents. Other estate foremen, like old Hans, might be clever and experienced, but without sufficient education, they could not write documents, and thus, naturally, could not serve as officers. And for phantom beast knights like Eric, while their fighting prowess was indeed formidable, their education level was not high, making it difficult for them to manage the estate. Therefore, unless Russell managed everything himself, he had no choice but to rely on Charles. Fortunately, while Charles's character might be somewhat rascally, he was nonetheless quite capable. He helped Russell organize estate affairs in an orderly fashion, sparing him the trouble of managing miscellaneous matters and allowing him more time to cultivate. A day without incidents. That evening, Russell once again rode a dragon into the sky in gloomy dreamland, leisurely roaming around the estate's annex. His focus was on the black piglet being raised in the kennel. Ever since the golden black sow gave birth, this black piglet had received Russell's extra care. He had specially arranged for the personal servant fox to look after it. The black piglet was allowed to nurse first, and only after it was full could the other golden black piglets eat. Very good, very good. You've kept it very well. Russell soon noticed that the magical aura on the black piglet had not dissipated. If it were a regular fantasy beast baby that failed to mature, its magic aura would typically dissipate, returning it to the essence of an ordinary beast. But this black piglet showed no signs of reverting to ordinary. Its magic aura had not further metamorphosed into a fantasy beast, but at least under Russell's care, it had successfully been maintained. Gah! The little dream dragon was puzzled. Just a mere little piglet. It did not understand Russell's affection for this little piglet. You don't understand, ice cream. This isn't just any little piglet. This is a black-waist serpent pig. Do you understand? A new breed of primordial beast for cultivation. which will be snapped up the moment it hits the market. Russell joyously explained to the little dream dragon, no matter whether the little dream dragon understood or not. If it was just any ordinary breeding primordial beast, I wouldn't be this excited, but it's a pig, you know? Of all the livestock and poultry, pigs have the greatest potential as a source of meat. Because pigs eat crudely and grow fast. They're the best source of meat. Chickens, ducks, and geese are too small, while cattle and sheep grow too slowly. Only large, fat pigs are the best source of meat. At Fluorescent Castle, there are 3 breeds of cultivation primordial beasts being raised: short fleece rabbits, long-legged ducks, and brown milk cows. Russell could assure that the value created by the Blackway serpent pig would far exceed these 3 breeds of cultivation animals. Maybe when my Blackway serpent pig goes to market, Baron Gold himself will come to buy the piglet breeds. The golden black pig is a specialty of Baron Gold's territory, but now, the Blackway serpent pig will become the specialty of Wu Yao Snake Manor, countering Baron Gold's market. Gah! The little dream dragon yawned, expressing its boredom. Russell chuckled and, riding the little dream dragon, flew away from the black piglet, continuing his countless patrols of the domain within gloomy dreamland. If not for wanting to observe the black piglet's condition, he reckoned he would have already found an excuse to camp outside the annex. The next day arrived. Early in the morning, a knight arrived with a message. Mr. Russell, Sir Cooper, Miss Rowland, and Miss Lola are planning to visit Weow Snake Manor today. Okay, I know. Please go back and convey that I have made all the necessary preparations to welcome our guests at Weow Snake Manor, said Russell. Russell was not surprised. He immediately ordered Butler Morris to get everything ready for the reception. Is it Miss Rowland, Miss Lola, and Lord Cooper Thistlegrass, the heir of Blackgarden Mountain? Morris asked in surprise. Yes. Sir, what kind of standards should we use to entertain these guests? Receive them with the same standards as for my elder brother Roland, just a level below how we would welcome my parents, Russell thought for a moment before saying. He was a vassal of Baron Rahman, and to him, Baron Rahman was his lord. Therefore, hosting Baron Rahman and his wife would be at the highest level, along with Lady Ingrid. Next in hierarchy was his elder brother Roland, the Baron's heir, and his uncle Rozon, who also enjoyed the same level of hospitality. After that level were fellow vassals like Marcus, Sally, and Eutrus, the 3 Lord Knights. I understand, sir. I will go and prepare right away. Morris's expression turned serious. He knew that today's reception was a test for him, a test to see if the manor's servants were indeed an excellent team. Russell might not be so demanding, but the pride in Morris's heart did not allow for any slip-ups during this event. Any mistake would be a disgrace to his master, Russell. Leona, lead the maids to clean the manor house from top to bottom again. Don't leave out any room. I need cleanliness without any blind spots, and the beddings and tablecloths must not have a single wrinkle, Morris announced gravely in the servants' dining hall. Headmaid Leona responded, Okay, Butler Morris. Ram, here, Butler Morris. You are the master's personal servant. You'll have to take care of receiving the guests when I am busy, especially the servants of the guests. You will need to coordinate with them. Leave it to me. I'm already familiar with all of the manservant's duties from my time at Fluorescent Castle, Ram replied confidently. Do not be arrogant. Learn to be humble. Yes, William. Morris called the name of the second manservant. William replied, What are your orders, Butler Morris? I need you to take some trouble. You'll be responsible for the tea and meals upstairs and downstairs, and for any occasion that the maids cannot attend. Keep in constant communication with the kitchen. No snack is to be served incorrectly. Are there only the 2 Misses and Lord Cooper coming? I think I won't make any mistakes. There must be no mistakes. Losing the master's dignity is a serious dereliction of our duty, Morris emphasized and instructed. Fox, the master has given you extra tasks, like looking after that piglet. I must also assign you a new task, to take good care of the guests' horses. Okay, I'm good at these, Butler Morris. Lastly, the kitchen. Mrs. Moore, bring out all of your cooking skills. Today's noon meal must be the best it can be. Oh heavens, watched by the great dragon. I need helpers. Mrs. Moore started to panic. Morris glared at her seriously. Look at me, Mrs. Moore. You only need to bring out all your culinary skills. Don't worry about anything else. Barbara and Mrs. Brown are good assistants. They might not help in the kitchen, but they can take over the menial tasks. Then should I make the fish soup as per the master's orders? Or should I make the previous recipe? Don't rush. I will go and ask the master, Morris reassured Mrs. Moore. He quickly returned to the living room to consult with Russell, who was reading a novel. Master, today's banquet fish soup. Should we use the new recipe or stick to the old one? Russell squinted his eyes. The new recipe. Let the revolution in dining begin today. In the sequence of nobility, standing on the left side of the main gate was just Russell alone, along with an impoverished Charles. Fortunately, there was the phantom beast knight Eric to lend some presence, even though outsiders did not yet know he was a phantom beast knight. In the sequence of servants, Butler Morris stood tall and proud on the right side of the gate, with 3 male and 4 female servants who were also full of energy. It was just that, in terms of appearance, they left much to be desired. Welcome, my sister. Welcome, Sir Cooper. Welcome, Lola. Russell greeted each one with a smile. There's been no change here since before. I visited the Wu Yao Snake Manor a few years ago with Roland. He said there were traces of the king of ebony-waisted snakes here. But unfortunately, we didn't find the king, Miss Rowland sighed. Not just the king of ebony-waisted snakes. It's rare to even see a black-waist serpent anymore. After the farmland was reclaimed, it has become difficult for them to survive here. Russell laughed. Liar, Russell, Lola said, huffing. What? You always said you'd bring me to Wu Yao Snake Manor, but you never did. It was my sister who brought me here. I really was planning to take you out to play when I went to Fluorescent Castle. Russell rubbed his nose. Perhaps it was because Lola had always been so quiet in the castle that he'd forgotten about her every time he went. Umph. Lola huffed resentfully. Since the time of arrival was approaching noon, after a short conversation, the group, led by Russell, headed straight to the dining room on the second floor. The banquet certainly couldn't compare to the luxury at Fluorescent Castle, and Russell wasn't particularly skilled at playing the host, but with Charles enthusiastically helping him entertain, the overall atmosphere of the banquet was quite pleasant. Moreover, Mrs. Moore's culinary skills were indeed good. The guests ate happily, fitting well with the dietary habits of the age. That was until the new fish soup was served. Russell, what kind of fish soup is this? It tastes so strange, Lola said after tasting the soup, unable to comprehend its flavor. Is it not good? I don't know, it's unfamiliar. Sister Cooper, what do you think? Russell asked Sir Cooper and his wife. Cooper replied with a smile. I think it's quite good. Although it's a bit strange at first, you quickly come to appreciate that the soup, while light, really allows you to taste the flavor of the fish itself. I quite like it. Really, that's great because it means our tastes are quite similar. Russell felt the joy of finding a kindred spirit. This fish soup was the taste he sought from Earth. That's when Miss Rowland looked up, her eyes complex as she spoke to Russell. Have you become so poor that you can't afford spices? I can only taste salt in this fish soup. None of the many spices are present. Clearly, you're running low on seasonings at home. That's not really the case. I just prefer this plain and simple flavor, Russell said. Stop pretending. My poor Russell, Miss Rowland said, looking at him not so much in jest, but seemingly seeing him as pitiable. Life here certainly can't compare to the castle after you've been split off. When you have time, come back to the castle for meals more often. Mother and father certainly won't mind an extra place setting for you. Ha, really, there's no need, Russell laughed. I'm living well here, and this fish soup is something I asked the kitchen to innovate. Seeing the disbelief in Miss Rowland's eyes, Russell had to elaborate. Sister, you know that I'm very interested in inventions now. The reading glasses for Grandma and this new flavor of fish soup are both my inventions. Really? Absolutely. I'm sure I'll earn the title of scholar. All right then, Miss Rowland said, but Russell knew from her expression that she didn't believe him at all. Russell felt quite helpless. He really wasn't poor at all. There was no need for such self-pity. After the luncheon, Russell made a special request to Butler Morris. Don't tell Mrs. Moore about my sister's comments at the party. Understand, Master. Given Mrs. Moore's capacity to bear, hearing Miss Rowland's comments would shatter her heart. Yes, I still need Mrs. Moore to continue improving the recipes. Should Sir Cooper's comments be conveyed to Mrs. Moore? In doing so, Mrs. Moore will have boundless motivation to continue refining the recipes according to your tastes, Master. That's right, Russell smiled. Morris smiled along, knowing the young master enjoyed trying new foods, a harmless indulgence he was more than happy to satisfy. After finishing afternoon tea, the Cooper couple followed Russell for a stroll around the manor, admiring the murky waters of Glowing River for a while and viewing the green wheat sprouts. The scenery was indeed beautiful, but one could get tired of it after a while. Russell, let's duel. Rowland drew her red saber that she always carried with her. These past days, I've thoroughly reviewed the gains and losses of our last battle. This time, I won't make mistakes again, giving you the chance to turn the tables from a position of weakness. This sort of make-believe battle didn't interest Russell much. But since Rowland had given him a mushroom worm as a gift for his coming of age, he had no choice but to accompany her wholeheartedly. Sister, is there a possibility that I was not winning from a position of weakness? Russell grasped the green ceramic sword, casually twirling a sword flower. Ambitious. Rowland's eyebrows rose. Come on, let's talk after we fight. By the glowing river, on the lush grass, the siblings dueled once again, with Rowland's swordsmanship much more stable than last time. However, the final result still saw Russell as the victor, using his turtle strategy. The green ceramic sword precisely flicked Rowland's red, long sword away and then pierced through the fabric of her clothing at the chest, imparting a strong force on her chainmail, which sent Rowland tumbling down for a second time. Sister, it's not only you who has improved. Russell reached out his hand, pulling Rowland up. With the first defeat as a stepping stone, Rowland's mentality upon her second defeat was much better, at least no longer fraught with agitation. But furrowing her brow, she said, "How is this possible? I clearly reviewed my mistakes. My battle chi is stronger than yours. I shouldn't be losing to you." "That's because of my superior tactics." Russell took a breath calmly and explained, "I may be weaker than you in battle chi and martial skills, but physically I've leveraged the endurance typical of the male body, played to my strengths, and avoided weaknesses, depleting your stamina. Therefore, the final victor is still me." In fact, Russell's second victory was a bit harder one than the first. But a win is a win. With this victory, Russell spoke with confidence. "Sister, if you don't break through to Great Knight soon to make up for your stamina deficiency with battle chi, you might never win against me again." Arrogant, ignorant. Rowland fiercely shook off Russell's hand. "I won't be discouraged. Don't rush, Russell. Wait until I adjust my mindset, then we'll fight again. I'll be ready anytime." After 2 battles, Russell already had Rowland's measure and was not the least bit afraid, his response nonchalant. Rowland glared at Russell fiercely. After a long while, she burst into laughter. "Well done. You've truly grown up. Your sister can't treat you like a little kid anymore." Russell spread his hands. "It's a fact." Yet Rowland gave a mysterious smile before turning her head. "Cooper, your wife is being bullied. Aren't you going to step in and reclaim some pride and give Russell a taste of what it's like to fight